Has everyone that wants to do public comment signed in? Here. Some fashion, right? Instead of just random. You want public testimony? There you go. Not a specific item, in general. Okay, there you go. It's not on the agenda. Okay. Oh, what do you want to talk about? So general. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Miss Warren, are we ready? All right. Well, good evening, everyone. We're going to call the Board of Supervisors to order. What a fine-looking crowd this morning. I like it. It's good to see people. Miss Warren, may we have a roll call, please?
Supervisor Giomi.
Here.
I'm sorry. Supervisor White.
Here.
Supervisor Jones. Supervisor Schutte.
Here.
Mayor Bagwell.
Here.
A quorum's present.
Thank you so much. Well, we're going to start off our agenda this morning with our invocation, and we have the lovely Peggy Locke that's going to do us the honors this morning.
Can you turn your mic on?
Oh,
Thank you. There you go. Perfect.
Thank you. I come as representative of Carson Tahoe Hospital. Jeremiah 32:17 says, "Ah, Lord God, behold, you have made the heavens and the earth by your great power and outstretched arm. There's nothing too hard for you." So, Lord, we pray for peace in Ukraine, protection from evil. Father, we give you thanks and praise today for many blessings, our families, our fellow workers, and the responsibilities that we have been given. Help us to be good stewards of what has been placed in our hands. Give wisdom and discernment to our Board of Supervisors. We also pray for our sheriff and fire departments, for Carson Tahoe Hospital staff and administration. Give them hope and courage to keep pressing forward in the midst of challenge and change. You are the God of hope, who fills us with all joy and peace as we trust in you, so that we may overflow and spread hope by the power of your Holy Spirit. May all that we do reflect patience, mercy, grace, kindness, and respect for all. And today we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
amen. Thank you so much for that beautiful message. Really appreciate it. Mr. Scott, would you do us the honor of leading us in the pledge?
Yes.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, we're now on agenda item number 5, which is our public comment. I have 2 people signed in for general public comment. Santos, would you like to come first? Come on up. I've got you already because you signed in, and if you'll just push the button so it turns once, so it turns green, and then state your name for the record. There you go.
Santos Corral.
Thank you.
I'm talking about the park, Ross Gold Park. How many people were notified of the 4-year project and cost? All people of Carson City should have known this project is going on. 3/4 of Carson City doesn't even know this project's going on. It doesn't sound like you guys are on our side for the people. You're not giving the people enough time to get input in. You're just seeing how you can get away with anything with the people. You don't know 95% of the people that use the park don't even know of this project. It sounds like when you run for office, everybody knows. There was only like 3 dozen envelopes sent out. I will to be notified if you know how much it goes to cost. I am wondering to be how much it's going to cost. This is a project extremely large for the cost. Doesn't look like people know about this project. It sounds like the blind leading the blind. I'm willing to bet you don't even know how much this project cost. It sounds like an example of not enough research. I'm going to plan, let's see, I'm going to accept, I'm going to, what is it? I'm going to say the blind leading the blind. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like our Parks and Rec manager or director can give you a call about the project?
Is he
It's been
here?
in certain phases, but I have your information here. Can I share that with them to give you a call?
Sure.
I would be happy to, because we've
The,
certainly been working on this project for many years and many phases, because we started with the playground and working on the restrooms, and then, so we are aware, and I'm so sorry if somehow you didn't know what was happening there, but we've been working on it for many years, and I will have staff contact you to
Well,
talk
Mr.
about it.
Navarro is doing an excellent job on the bathrooms right now.
Yes.
They haven't been this good in 40 years. I'm very impressed. Keep the good work up, and I'm happy.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. The next for public comment I have is Jane Brinson. Good
Hi,
morning.
good morning. Thank you for letting me come. This is awesome. I've lived here in Carson City for 39 years, approximately, with my husband, and have raised our 3 children. And I'm here to address the Carson Aquatics Facility situation with the lifeguarding shortage that they're having currently. Our children learned to swim there. Now our grandchildren are learning to swim there. Over the course of my residency here, I've seen it used for so many various activities that are so wonderful that our community even has access to a facility such as this. It's used as a rehab facility for folks that have had physical injury. I've seen cross-training with sports teams. I use it as a fitness facility where I swim laps, and my husband does the same. So we're there several times a week. And over the course of this last year or so, we've really seen and heard about the decline in the certified lifeguards. And then this past year, more significantly, we've seen the shortages and felt the shortages as there's been pool closures. The outdoor pool wasn't open for, like it usually is, and we were spoiled. And we love being outdoors a bit in the summertime when we can. And then the tot pool now, since before the holidays, has been completely closed with a sign saying, there's just really, we need lifeguards. That being said, the administrative staff has been talking to those of us that are there on a regular basis about getting certified and just helping out once a week or doing whatever we can. And so a few weeks ago, we had a little meeting, and there was a wonderful handful of 10 or 11 of us, 50, 60-year-old, some retired, I don't really know, that we're going to go get certified and volunteer where we can. Great. It was really nice to see the 10 or 11 people there. And I think we have 5 signed up to start tomorrow night. But I only see this as a short-term solution to a long-term problem. There used to be a lifeguarding class at the high school that I think fed into that, using that as a precursor possibly to a career in emergency medical or maybe a medical profession, because you do have to learn CPR and learn first aid and then, the various skills, which I'm going to learn about here. But I don't see though, I'm wondering if there's something we can look at creatively to encourage the young adult population to feed into this program on a little more continuously so that we don't have the issues.
Thank you. I will let you know that Western Nevada College does have a program for certification to do
okay.
the very thing that you're talking
Oh,
about.
awesome.
Just learned of that on a different meeting.
Oh.
But there is a certification program for that very issue to be able to have young adults take the course and be able to work and have a nice summer job. So if anyone's listening and you're looking for summer
Right.
jobs, lifeguards are definitely a good one. And we're certainly aware of the issue.
Okay.
I mean, but thank you.
Awesome.
And thank you for volunteering to help. Thank you. Shooty? Wait.
I would like to thank you for bringing to light, really, again, or reminding us all of the amazing programs that the Carson City Aquatic Center provides and the services to our community. Thank you for pointing that out.
There's really only one way that children really learn how. I mean, I was a special educator and in education, and if learning to swim in Lake Tahoe doesn't really work out so well. It's a bit cold.
Yeah.
And they can't spend enough time, so it really is the only way that children will learn to swim, and that is so important.
Thank you so much again. Thank you. I don't have anyone else signed up. Is there, Denny?
I am so sorry, the sign-up wasn't available. I will.
Thank you.
Mayor, supervisors, thank you very much. Today, after having looked at the agenda, I have lots of comments, but I'm going to start with several relating to the open space and the park meeting. I was really impressed by the presentation that was put on by the Citizens Climate Education folks, and they brought up several points that they thought could go into the master plan considerations. One was white roofs, new types of asphalt, south-facing windows for the exposure to, what do they call it? I'm sorry, my brain's doing a little bit of a synapse problem, but it's just passive solar, basically, and different types of insulations that should be considered every time we allow a contractor to come in. Jennifer Budge, Lindsay Boyce, Benjamin Johnson have got sort of everything covered as far as the basic things of their parks and such. One of the things about the parks that has me worried is that we're asphalting, sidewalking, and a lot of different things that I really have trouble finding any space to walk off into other than asphalt or cement around the town. And I think that's discouraging. And one of my top items is trees. One of the things that wasn't mentioned by that group was tree planting. They may have brought it up, but not really to suggest it. But the main thing for me is southern exposures, plug-ins for vehicles. That's something that you really should ask the contractors and developers to consider, that even if a person never gets an electric car, the basic plug-in availability from the house is very important. Otherwise, it costs a whole lot of money to tear out walls and to add that electrical aspect to your electric box. So if that was in the original development, it would make it less expensive for individuals and more optimal setup for everybody. Trees, Lordy, I can't handle how many trees I see are girdling right now. And come springtime, that growth that those trees are going to be having is going to be stifled by the very things that are keeping them up right now. The staking and the ties that they put to make sure that the tree is held safe are actually causing them more damage after a certain time in their lives. And most trees, if they don't stand after a year, they shouldn't be left up. Either they have a root problem, a soil problem, a water problem, and they should be considered, those things should be watched. Private property development, like plazas and such, need to be watched. They're not taking care of their trees, and I believe that's part of the requirement when they're doing their planning to have a certain amount of open space. I think if they put trees there, they should have to take care of them, and they're not doing a very good job. Thank you very much.
You did really well today, Denny. Thank you so much for your comment. Is there anyone else that didn't have a chance to sign in, or Mr. McGrath?
Is this already on?
It is, it's green.
Okay. I'm here just to respond to the lack of action by the board of our marijuana crisis in this community and doing nothing about it. Now, all of you on this board have been provided with a number of copies of problems that were associated with this community and how we got to this position. So I'm here just to let you know, starting next week, I'm going to start meeting with all the service clubs and anybody else, political organizations, the school boards, and we handle this little pamphlet. And it outlines exactly what's happened in Carson City and who's responsible. Now, Mayor, may I present this to the city manager so you should include this in your meeting minutes?
Yes, you can leave that as an exhibit. That'll be fine. You could do it at the end if you have, or is that the end of your comment?
I'm just letting you know that I
Thank you.
told you I was going to do it.
Okay.
And you guys just ignore it, and we've got a really serious problem, and it's all been caused by the former board that allowed that to happen in this community. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, is that it? I don't see any other raised hands. Okay, I'm going to move along then. We're going to go to item 6 on our agenda, which is the approval of the February 3, 2022 minutes. Does anyone have any corrections or anything? I didn't see any. Supervisor Giomi, a motion?
Absolutely. I move to approve the meeting minutes for the Carson City Board of Supervisors for the February 3rd, 2022 meeting as presented.
I have a motion and a second for approval of the February 3, 2022 minutes. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect the motion was unanimous. We're now going to do one of our favorite parts, which is our special presentations. We're going to work on a proclamation to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Older Americans Act nutrition program. It's pretty exciting. I like to go down and Courtney, I think, and any member of her team that would like to come. It's pretty fun. This is the time. Come on and celebrate with us. This is what it's all about. And we love pictures, so that's just the way it is. You gotta come. Look at this. This is really community when if you can come. I really want your shining smiles and faces in a picture. We don't get to celebrate all of your good work often, and it's important. So you can be like me. We're always in the front. You can always find me. Yeah. Hi. It's good to see you, Corey. Look at this. Oh.
We'll stand up with you guys. You're good.
All right. Yeah, so that I can actually present it to you too. All right. Have we got the whole gang? Wow. Okay. In the very end, actually, they can already, if they want to. I love to have the board come and get in the pictures with us. Come on.
We will.
Yeah.
We still have talking to do.
Well, and this one's got lots.
I know.
I had to actually
Stand right here.
work on it a little. All right, let's try this proclamation. Well, I might need longer arms and stuff too. All right, you guys, we're going to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Older Americans Act nutrition program. Whereas on March 22, 1972, President Nixon signed into law a measure that amended the Older American Act of 1965 to include a national nutrition program for individuals 60 years and older. It might be right. A few of you might be sneaking in here. Whereas for 5 decades, this landmark law has helped to fund community-based organizations like Meals on Wheels, and Congregate Senior Lunch. And it is still the only federal program designed specifically to meet the nutritional and social needs of older adults. And whereas this year, Meals on Wheels and Congregate Senior Lunch programs from across the country are joining together to celebrate 50 years of success. Are we going to get 50 more on top of it? Right? You know, I know you're all like, it is worth a clap, isn't it? It's pretty darn good. And to continue and ensure these critical programs can continue to address food insecurity, malnutrition, combat social isolation, enable independence, and improve health for years to come. And whereas the Carson City Senior Center, operating Meals on Wheels and Congregate Senior Lunch, has served our community admirably for 47 years. They're probably getting close. I don't know, you and Fish are pretty long, huh? Yeah, this is pretty exciting. Whereas Meals on Wheels and Congregate Senior Lunch in Carson City deserve recognition for the heroic contributions and essential services they have provided amid the COVID-19 pandemic and will continue to provide to our local community long after it is over. And whereas the senior population is increasing substantially, and that's a good thing that we're getting older, but it's good. It's a good thing. And action, it's better than the alternative, huh? And action is needed now to support local senior nutrition programs through federal, state, and local funding, volunteering, donations, and raising awareness to ensure these vital services can continue to be delivered for another 50 years. Now, therefore, I, Lori Bagwell, Mayor of Carson City, Nevada, do proclaim March 2022 as a month to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Older Americans Act nutrition program. They need to shorten that so that us old people don't have to read that much, because we need glasses and longer arms to go with it. We urge our community to honor our Meals on Wheels and Congregate Senior Lunch programs, the seniors they serve, and the volunteers and staff who work so tirelessly for them. That's this group. It's pretty exciting. Yeah, they deserve it, right? They do deserve it. I don't have any great words other than thank you, right? That's really what we can say is thank you for all of your service and all you do. And how many years have you been on that board and working?
47.
It's true, right? The whole time.
Yeah, we don't have term limits.
I think that's a good thing considering what this group is too.
You can't find volunteers.
Courtney, did you want to just say a few words?
Well, I would just like to recognize everybody who is standing here. It took a lot of effort to get everybody here today. We have our kitchen crew, our Meals on Wheels, our administration staff, our volunteers that serve on our advisory council, and our volunteers on our governing board. So thank you very much for this special occasion. I thank you all for every day, cold, ice, snow, any condition, you're here. And then also recognizing a thanks to the community and the seniors that trust us to do the services. And then for the Board of Supervisors and to our city leaders for your support and this unique partnership that we have with our organization. I can't thank you enough.
I got to tell you, something that I thought was even unique is how well they mobilized during COVID to do drive-through meals. See, I paid attention. I knew what was going on over there. And you guys really worked hard to continue your mission and to serve those in need. So kudos, just kudos. This is going to be a great picture. Oh.
You might want to video it.
Oh, dangerous.
Thank you, Lori.
We got a great Isn't that true? Isn't that true? Okay, we're going to move on to our consent agenda. We're going to pull item 9A just for a minor fix on the record. And then we're also going to pull item 11A to act on separately as we have a disclosure on that item. Is there anything else anyone wants pulled? With that, I'll accept a motion for the remainder of the consent agenda.
All right, I move to approve the consent agenda consisting of item 8A, 9A being pulled, 10A with resolution number 2022-R-8, 10B, and 11A being pulled.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion carried unanimously. We're now going to move on to item 9A, which is the possible action on the revisions for our Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Department on the fee policy. I just saw one item on there that I'd like us to consider. The application time is 60 business days. I'd like to remove the word business so that the public's not trying to count whether there's a holiday or whether there, just a little technical thing. And I believe that was okay with staff. So
What page are we on?
it was at the, sorry, let me get to the right. It is, where is, I probably marked it in one version, my online version, and not my,
Your tab?
doggone it. It's the filing period. And it says 60 business days that they file the application for the events. Do you remember what page it's on, Jen? Yeah, I did it on my online version. I'm just going to take out the word business.
It's page 57.
It's at the end, that's why. Yeah. Oh, there you go, on the application. Is everybody?
Oh.
That way, the public always knows, and it's consistent with our other work we do. So with that, Supervisor Giomi, a motion?
I move to approve the proposed fee policy and schedule updates with the change of removing the word business on the co-sponsorship application, and the remainder is presented.
I have a motion and a second for approval with the recommended change of removing the word business from the application. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you all so much. Thank you for your great work on that. We're now on item 11A. May I have your disclosure, Supervisor White?
Indeed you can. NRS 281A.420 requires me to disclose a conflict of interest and abstain from voting when I have a disqualifying conflict. In another commitment, I serve on the Nevada Board of Off-Highway Vehicles. It is on. Can you hear me? Okay. Which made a grant award determinations. Because the judgment of a reasonable person in my position would be materially affected by my concurrent roles as a member of the Commission on OHVs and as a member of the Board of Supervisors. In this context of this grant award, I will not be voting on this matter.
Thank you, Mr. White. Does anyone have any questions on this? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion, please.
I move to ratify the previous submission of the grant application, authorize acceptance of the grant, and approve the funding, or approve the project funding agreement as presented.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no, and one abstention. So please let the record reflect a 4-0-1 vote. Thank you so much. Okay, we're now going to move on to agenda item number 13A, which is discussion and possible action on our second reading for Bill number 104, amending our general administrative provisions. That's a good word. Was there anyone that had any further comment on this proposed ordinance? Denny, you'll have to come to the, sorry, you have to come to the microphone.
I'm a little lost. The last grant had all numbers, but it didn't suggest what the subject of the grant was, and so that's
Oh,
confusing.
HV,
Yes, but what is that? Is that,
off-highway
was it off-highway
for
one?
the sheriff's office?
All right, so good for the sheriff then. I was waiting for the one relating to the job that was going to be done by the contractors with the asphalting and such, and I just didn't remember the numbers.
Oh, that was within the consent already, and no one asked for it to be pulled for discussion.
Oh, okay. I think everything should be pulled for discussion, but that's me.
We ask, that's why we ask if someone wants to
I
talk
appreciate
about it.
that.
Right.
So as long as I'm taking part of my 3 minutes here, I would like to suggest that I am concerned about the placement of some of these communication towers, especially since they're emitting lots more energy, and that the recommended space is like 5 miles actually from schools and such in some cases. So the information that I've found is bringing the considerations for solar, not the problem of the solar gathering, but the change from the solar to the DC. That process and it makes sound itself like it can be a whistling or whizzing or whatever. And that was discussed years ago about the school when I brought it up. And they determined that the neighbors were right to say, hey, it's above the frequency situation. But the thing is, the things that you can't hear are the most
Denny, we're on specific item public comment.
Oh,
If
I'm-
you
I'm
want
so
to bring
sorry.
this
Did-
as final public comment, that would be great.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you so much. We'll get into the new routine real quick. Thank you so much. So this is anybody wanting to comment on Bill number 104, which is our ordinance on the general administrative. And staff, I believe we didn't have any changes, or did we have a comment? Mr. Yu?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just real quickly for the record, I wanted to note 2 minor clerical changes, something that was previously identified by Supervisor White. There was an incorrect citation to one of the source authorities in the catch lines to the city charter, so that's been identified and corrected. Another minor correction was at the top of this, the title was identified as a 2021 ordinance. That's, of course, been changed to a 2022 ordinance.
Okay. Anybody else, any comments? Okay, seeing none, I'll accept a motion to finish this one up. We want to do that? Supervisor Jones, you have,
I move to adopt on second reading Bill number 106 to include corrections as mentioned, ordinance number 2022-6.
it's
Bill
Bill
number
104.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the approval of ordinance 2022-6. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you so much. We're now on to agenda item number 14, which is our non-action items. Ms. Paulson, do you have anything for the board?
Nothing for today.
Does any member of the board wish to give it? Supervisor White?
I have a couple. First of all, I think Nancy missed something she should report. Recently, Nancy and Hope Sullivan were awarded the Paul Harris Fellow recognition by the Carson City Rotary Foundation. That's a big deal. You should be proud of that. The Western Nevada WNDD is doing a broadband test across the entire state of Nevada, testing where broadband is good and where it isn't. This is a consumer-based survey. If you would like to participate in that broadband testing, you can do that at WNDD.org on their website. And then right there at the top of the landing page is a place that directs you to that survey. The Nevada State Prison Preservation Society has selected their tour dates for this summer. They will be doing 2 Saturdays every month, plus every 3-day holiday. The tours will run from May 7 through October 31. Tickets will be available very shortly on their website at nsptv.org. nspps.org. That's all I
Thank
have.
you. Does any other member have any reports? Supervisor Shooty?
This is just a thank you to the different community organizations around town that really make a difference in the lives of people living in Carson City. I have participated in a couple events such as Nevada Humane Society teaming with Parks and Rec for their Tails and Trails adoption event, and Carson City Water Subconservancy was there, or Carson Subconservancy District was there, talking about the health of the water sheds and walking your dog. I've met with other organizations in terms of homelessness and sheltering. And there's just a lot of good folks out there working on behalf of helping relieve some of the difficulties that people face and animals face and our community faces. The Citizens Climate Lobby coming to speak to the Open Space and the Planning Commission on behalf of things like permeable surfaces and as Denny spoke to, trees and foliage. So I would just encourage people who have a passion. There are so many organizations that can use your help, follow your passion, and it really does benefit Carson City, and it is so appreciated.
Thank you. So then I also want to announce on April 10th, about 1:15 in the afternoon, we'll be having a restoration of the GAR section of our cemetery. The Daughters of the American Revolution are spearheading this particular update of this section, and I want to thank the members of the board here for each contributing to one of the tree replacements. And I think it also goes along with what Supervisor Shooty said. I want to thank the Rotary Club of Carson City, the VFW, and everyone, Don and Sherry Cool, and people that are just coming together to revitalize this area. And so I invite everyone to attend. Dr. Robin Titus will be doing a new flag, the U.S. flag there, and we're just really going to celebrate together as a community. And again, I want to thank this board for contributing a tree. Yeah, isn't that exciting? It really needs it. No, it's April 10th, about 1:15 at the Lone Mountain Cemetery. We'll be at the Sentinel. You can't miss our lovely soldier that stands guard and protects us all. So please come and join us for that. Anybody else have any other announcements or anything? We're done with item 14? Okay. Then we're going to move on to our final public comment. Is there anyone with general public comment? Did you want to come back, Denny? Denny, you are always welcome.
Yes.
1.5 minutes left no, go ahead. You're good. Go.
Thank you very much. And what was that beeping earlier? Can you answer that before I even start my?
Your timer says that you're done.
Might help to have this.
You made
I
it last
see.
time
Thank
right
you.
on.
I had never noticed what that meant before. I thought it was some chemical balance thing. So thank you.
Welcome.
The main thing for me is Ed Bagley Jr. He's better known for parts like his new Young Sheldon. His quotes had got me a little interested in, but one of the things that I'm concerned about is there's a whole lot of cement and asphalt that's been put into use to develop the new dumps main meat office, and I appreciate that. They need a comfortable, safe place to do their work, and they're there, morning to night, basically, to allow people to come up to the dump and to maintain it and such. So they needed a good space. But I'm thinking with the growth and the amount of trash that I've seen, because I'm required to go up there every month, that's one time I do get a car out. But the deal is that Mr. Bagley brought up the fact that he could pretty much put a week's worth of trash in his glove compartment, and a newsman caught him on it and said, well, let's see. I want to see you do this. So Ed Bagley was asked, when's your trash? And he said, today. And he had the thing of trash to go out. They took him out to his car, and he put it in his glove compartment. I would like to encourage everybody to consider what they're taking up there. There's so many other resources. Thrift stores. There's a store up in Reno that will take doors and sinks and, building type things. And I don't know the name of it, and I'm not sure it's still open. But if it's not, we should have something encouraged like that in this community of business. They do have a lot of business. So I did know that, and that was about 4 years ago. So the main thing for me is that Ed Bagley suggests that his favorite form of transportation is walking. I'd like to encourage more people. I have talked to people that are bicycling, and they've had to cut back on that because it's very dangerous out there for bicyclists. The next thing is he lives in a neighborhood where everything's sort of close, and I'd like to encourage that when the developers come in, that things are still accessible, either through the transportation that help provide or some other way to include it in those deals. Also, one of his saying is, basically, if you're not buying recyclable, you're not recycling. So consider that in everything that you get yourself into. And I want to say again how much I appreciate you all. It was just a matter of whether the lights are going to be on or not. And it's nice to have the big screen there. Thank you for originally bringing this up. I hear you were the originator of that. I didn't come first. And then also Kent. So thank you. And I even have some time left. I'm surprised. So I'm sure I'll give you that time to reboot after having to listen to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any further public comment? Come on up.
I just want to say, it's nice to see faces now.
Great.
Thank you very much. for that.
Thank you.
But I am going to complain later.
Okay,
Help the
later?
process.
That works. Thank you.
I'm confused. Are we going to have other options for
The health department?
Yeah.
That'll be during that agenda set,
I'm sorry.
okay? That has a different chairman. I get to pass the gavel here soon.
She doesn't want to
So if there's no there's no additional public comment. Any objections, then we're adjourned as the Board of Supervisors. We will take just a 5-minute to then come up as the Board of Health, and Dr. Lyons will be chairing that one. So give us just a few minutes to switch out.
Right. But they're both ice.
Ice.
So. Wow, that's crazy. What are they gonna do with the whole building? I mean, there can't be more than how many employees do we have? Oh. That's all I'm gonna say, maybe 25.
What's the website? Oh, Carson.org. And then you can go to the live meeting, they'll be on the calendar and hit it. We usually watch it online, it's good to be able to come.
I know. They're gonna get sued.
My mouth full.
The wheel is sitting across the street and put a head on it. And just drive through dealing with businesses. Everything is full except for the school.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be. So how are they?
That's fun, huh?
I'll call to order and ask for roll call.
Chair Lyons? Chair Lyons?
Here.
Vice Chair Giomi? Member Bagwell? Member Furlong? Member Jones? Member Shute?
Here.
Member White?
Here.
A quorum's present.
Thank you. And with that, we'll entertain any public comment.
Hello, I'll pick up where I messed up last time, and I've got that in mind. As far as the dump, I'd really like to say it really discouraged me. While I am, like I said, supportive of making sure they had a structure up there that was good for the employees that had to tend the coming and going at the weight station. But I do feel that with the growth of that particular area, that area is going to have to be used for dumping soon. And all that extra material that they put in there is just going to be covered up. And that's sort of a shame, I think. With the rapid increased amount of waste in our community as far as dumping, that area is filling up very fast. They're doing a wonderful job of managing it. They don't let me carry my trash up on foot, though, which is a bother to me because I could ride my bike out there and then carry my trash up. And they don't have bins for recycling anymore, which is a problem for a lot of people. When the roads get bad up there, they're usually bad only when it's really wet. But I've gone up and had to go back down and wash my car off there near the Taco Bell at the dollar wash-off deal because it's so muddy. But my thing, too, is that I just really want to use the last bit of a minute there to suggest that really these towers have to be considered around schools and businesses that people spend 24/7 hours at, because the impact on brain development, especially in children at critical times, is really in jeopardy. With the airways, we just don't see it. All this electrical fields are running right through us, between microwave and on up. And it's not one of those things you really want to talk about because it's sort of a wet blanket, but it has to be considered in our building codes and our considerations about the towers. We may not have a choice of some of those places, but we need to monitor what's built around them. Thank you very much. And I see I've left you with time. That subject said, the environmental G5 versus birds, bees, and trees. And that would include what I've just said about the human. But I would like people to start looking into that. We have so many games that we can play on different phones and contraptions, and we're forgetting to read, and we're forgetting to pay attention to the environment around us. We're so busy getting one place to another. And I'd like people to start looking into some of these things. It's unfortunate that times are so tough that we want to recreate and we want to be distracted. But please start considering some of these factors as part of your studies and considerations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Denny, for those comments, and certainly appreciate your support of recycling and the use of recycled products. Any other public comment?
This is health. Mhm.
Ma'am, your mic is not on. Can you turn your mic on?
Is it on now? I'm Deborah Songer, and I would like to tell you, I've done a lot of research. I'm not a doctor. I wish I was sometimes, because sometimes I could be a lot better than what things are doing around here. Now that the WHO wants to have us get into where we are tracked and everything, I would tell you we're not interested. The people isn't. I am from people from Carson City, from Carr County, and Washoe County. We haven't even gotten our life, our freedoms back yet, and we got to fight for them first. We still have problems in our voting and stuff. Carson City, I think we're okay, but the other places. But I do want you guys to think, especially with the health department, because you don't seem to do your research. Now, 7,000 doctors around the world are saying this isn't COVID. COVID is a flu, cold. What did we do when we were 2019, and I died twice in the hospital, and I would have been dead by what Fauci told them to do in the hospital. They treated my symptoms. Guess what? I lived. But Fauci was screwing around with the Spanish flu at that point in time. Since they like doing the Gina. And I didn't know this for a long time. After I died, something happened to me. And God told me to speak up and be honest and not turn my back. But why do any doctor that stands up above Fauci, it's not science when they won't say, well, let me see. Can we change it? Because smoking was good for us at one time. Yep. I'm 62 years old. I've been smoking since I was 8 years old. Guess what? It's not good for you. But anyways, now they tell you it's not. Well, quit. It's so easy. That's a lie in itself. And these other pills that come up, 10, 15, it's safe. I don't trust any of them. They've all been paid off. If you look at the financial records, because I didn't get all the records to you guys. I'm not even going to say it. But think about it, please. Do some research. These people want to do these young kids. You've seen athletes die from a heart attack. And that's from the jab. They did not even allow. It only went to second step for cancer. They've had it since 1990. Been playing around with it because it wasn't safe. And now I gotta go. But think about it, please. I'm not here to yell. I just want critical thinking for once and not getting paid or whatever. I'm not saying you guys are that way, but.
Thank you, ma'am, for your comments.
Thank you. If I offended anybody, I'm sorry.
Any other public comments? Any from call-in? Okay, no call-in. Thank you. So for possible action approval of the minutes from December 2nd?
I move approval of the December 2, 2021 minutes as presented.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that motion to accept the minutes passes. And I will sign these right now. Then regarding item 20A, possible action in regards to accepting the health officer's report, my report. And just a few highlights there in terms of activities. Would point out that the Behavioral Health Task Force continues to be aware of the need for residential housing for those who suffer from chronic mental illness and are thus frequently disabled by it. And I also want to point out that the Northern Nevada Behavioral Health Policy Board has taken this on as a priority to look at it at the greater region. So it's just not completely on Carson City's shoulders, but rather looking at it from the Northern Nevada perspective. And that policy board takes policy forward to the legislature, and they had two policies that they supported this last legislature, and I think both of those went forward. So that is a really good thing to know. I also want to point out that the SART committee, which is the sexual assault response team, thank you. I wanted to make sure, has decided to support the Start By Believing campaign, and there's some materials here in your packet in that regard, and Denim Day as well, and I'll address that a little bit more later. I've written several articles, as have numerous staff members of the health department for the weekly Wednesday, Healthy Wednesdays in the Nevada Appeal, and want to encourage everyone to look at how to get the most from your doctor. Probably the number one thing people can do as individuals is to be sure you're carrying with you at all times, which in my case is my little cell phone wallet, a actual written copy of the medications I take and any allergies that I have. This is the quickest way for any a health provider to determine what's happening for you and to be sure that they don't cause any additional complications with additional medications. So it's not on my cell phone. I actually have it on an index card. So because you want to be able to hand it over, you don't want to hand over your cell phone when you're in the emergency room. So that's one of the number one things. And then to always have a list when you go to the doctor. Know what your agenda is when you see the doctor. Give that list to the doctor so that the two of you can prioritize on that particular visit. It's estimated that generally your visit time is about 15 minutes. That's a whole different discussion about whether that's long enough, but that is our current system, allowing about 15 minutes for your visit. So you want to be ready and to get the most out of that visit. So do look at that, share it widely, please, for you, your family, and friends. In regards to clinical oversight, we were looking at the policy on sheltering and the shelter kits that we utilized during the Caldor fire when we opened two shelters, one at Fuji, one at the community center. We added nurse practitioners to that, we added paramedics to that, and we also redid the standing orders for nurses relative to insulin when clients present with insulin and need help with that, how we're going to handle that, and the basic information. Also reviewed in a big way the Narcan use for potential opioid overdose. We inventoried the shelter supplies and divided them into two. Previously, we had a large number of supplies that were based on after-action reports from the Paradise Fire, which was, of course, very devastating. But we opened two shelters, so we've now divided them into two kits that will cover approximately 50 people. So if we open one big shelter, we take both kits. If we're opening two small shelters, we have it divided already, because that took some time to do that when we had the Caldor fires, to try to divide those supplies into two sections. And then in terms of training and education, all healthcare providers have to be trained and fit for a mask. And so did that. And I want to point out that I'll continue to wear a mask out of compassion and caring for others until our county health data, as the new CDC guidelines, have us in the green. We continue to be in Western Nevada in the yellow presently. And that means that those that are at risk, compromised, advanced elderly, even those who potentially have been vaccinated, could still remain at risk. And so I'll be wearing a mask until we're in the green, which appears is happening pretty quickly across the country. And you can get that map very easily by county. I have it on my cell phone, obviously, as your health officer, and that is CDC COVID-19 by county. Put in your county and state, and it comes up medium. It tells you what that is, and then goes into the details about that. And want to point out that attended a interesting presentation by the CDC regarding the multi-system inflammatory syndrome in children. We've seen, this is some of what happens relative to COVID and long haulers and such, is the inflammatory response that happens to the COVID. That body responding, trying to get over it, taking care of it. Well, in children who have very good immune systems, unlike all us in this room,
The seniors,
it starts to drop off precipitously after like age 12 or 15. It's amazing. So, but anyway, in young children, 1 in 3,200 who get infected with COVID seem to develop the multi-inflammatory syndrome, and that's the thing that lands the kids in the hospital. The average age of those children hospitalized is 9 years old. In regards to the shot itself, this particular shot has been more carefully monitored probably than any other shot that has been given in the past with the V-Safe program. So everybody that was given the vaccine had the opportunity again to enroll in the V-Safe program and report any subsequent symptoms that they may have experienced from the shot. And those requests for information were sent out as a text message to which you could respond and report. With all of that data, they have discovered that 1 in a million children will have a multi-system inflammatory syndrome after having had the shot. So after the infection, it's 1 in 3,200. After the shot, it's 1 in a million. But of those 1 in a million, when they look to see have they been infected with COVID, they're able to determine 70% of them were or are infected with COVID. So the shot doesn't instantaneously prevent you from having COVID. So it looks like it's a very small number that get it from the shot itself. Now, of course, any illness can be just like the flu shot. Many people complain that they get the flu from the flu shot. What they're getting is a good inflammatory immune response from the shot, and that feels like you've got the flu. It's not that you have the flu, it's that your immune system is responding as it would if you had the flu. Thankfully, you don't have the flu. So anyway, hopefully that explains. And attended the Nevada Academy of Family Physicians Winter CME Conference that's held up at Lake Tahoe. I think they've held it there now. They're on their 32nd or 35th year. But one of the important things that I noted there and that we're aware of at the health department is that Nevada ranks first in the nation for the number of primary and secondary cases of syphilis. and fourth for congenital syphilis. So that is a significant problem. Congenital syphilis results in miscarriages, stillbirth, and then should the neonate or infant make it through, plenty of problems with brain, nerve, bone, etc. So even though it's a small number, it's a devastating outcome and easily prevented with adequate screening, prevention, treatment, and the health department is involved in that, as is our mom's clinic and other areas. General information, I wanted to show the graph there that shows that the cloth masks, that masks do make a difference in whether one acquires the COVID virus or not. And the one I'm currently wearing is the 83%. I just like this one because I can actually breathe in it. And it doesn't fog my glasses quite as much. And then the information about what mask one should wear. And want to point out that a single layer as a gaiter, a bandana, are not adequate to protect. The research is showing you've got to at least have 2 layers if you're using cloth. So you'd have to double over your gaiter if you were going to utilize a gaiter. The problem with gaiters is they give a lot of leakage right here by the nose, and that's it. The point about a mask is this metal here to form it around the top of your nose. And then I'm happy, as I suspect many, many people are, with the changes that the CDC has put in regards to their new county tracker data in terms of are you in the orange, yellow, or green zone, because it takes into consideration what's actually happening in your community and what resources you have to respond to what's happening. So it takes into consideration our hospitalizations, et cetera. And with that, I would just point out that the Nevada Hospital Association still is in crisis mode on staffing in both the south and the rural areas in the state of Nevada. And they report that they suspect that that is going to be the case for several years, maybe as much as the next 5 years, in part because they anticipate losing 35% of the current nursing staff over the next 5 years regarding retirements, et cetera. We've already lost a lot of staff in all areas, whether that be nursing home, hospital, acute care, because of the stress of the pandemic. And in Carson City, as of the 22nd of February, we had 26 people in the hospital. 2 weeks prior to that, we had 50 people in the hospital. Our hospital in Carson City has 159 beds. And so that represented anywhere from 1 in 3 people in the hospital were with COVID, or down to presently 16. And of course, it is dropping, so it's lower than that. But those are still a number of people that are affected. And how that affects our system, it's not just that we have COVID patients in the hospital, but those patients in those beds thus interfere with the ability to the hospital to manage the normal things that used to occur, you know, in 2019 and prior. So interferes with elective surgeries, strained systems relative to your normal pneumonias and heart attacks and gallbladders and appendicitis and such as that. And then back to the start by believing, the 10 reasons why to start by believing. The Sheriff's Department is going to be participating in the Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and these materials will be provided to the Sheriff's Department there, and they will also be participating in Denim Days, and so you can see the information about Denim Days. Want to point out to everyone the 10 things, or what to say if someone were to report to you that they've been sexually assaulted, and the whole idea is to start by believing. So to not ask why questions, why were you there, what were you wearing, that kind of thing, but rather, I'm here for you, tell me what I can do to help, and to avoid asking those why questions. The Health Department is looking to see whether some of those materials might be able to be incorporated for the teenage sexual education materials as well. And I think that concludes my report. I'll entertain any questions or comments.
Thorough report. We really appreciate it, and thank you for writing it, so it's in a packet for the public. We
Yeah.
really, thank you.
And entertain a motion to accept the report.
I move to present the report as presented by Dr. Lyon.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Report accepted. For possible action, discussion, and possible is the report by the Carson City Department of Health and Human Services, the director herself, Nikki Aker.
Thank you. For the record, Nikki Aker, Director of Carson City Health and Human Services. First off, I would like to welcome one of our new managers for clinical services. Her name is Catherine Couric, and she is replacing Veronica Gallus. We are very fortunate that Veronica is still with us, and you may know her as Ronnie. She is still with us in another position, so she is able to help mentor Catherine. There's a lot that goes on within clinical services. The grants can be overwhelming, and there's a lot to learn, so very happy that we're able to do that mentoring for her, and we are very glad to have her on board.
Nikki, before you start, can I just ask, is what you handed out today different than what we had in our packet?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
So I updated some of the charts within that report, and so I did provide each of you a hard copy, and I do have hard copies on the table. This is a work in progress, and as we move forward, any suggestions to make it easier for you all, I would gladly take those suggestions, and I would ask to you all, is this information helpful for you to see what's going on within our health department?
Oh, yes, I would say that you're really making strides in the presentation, the material, and then providing me, or for me, the ability to talk in the public about what's going on. So having good statistics and information is so helpful. And again, that you're writing this instead of just giving us a report at the meeting, to me, is by far an improvement. So I really want to thank again both you and Dr. Lyons for doing this, because that way you don't have to read to us and things, because some of this, it's really better for us to digest it and to really be able to have material. So thank you. Very much better for me.
And as you're digesting it, if there's questions, you all know where to find me. So,
I do.
Okay, in April, we have coming up the National Public Health Week. It's April 4th through the 10th. I've listed the themes for each day. We are going to have a project headed by one of our interns from UNR, and she's going to work with the HOSA students at the high school. That's one of their healthcare
Tracks.
yeah, one of their healthcare tracks. So, and as part of this, the HOSA students are going to be providing art and stories for our wall at the health department. So it will replace the World AIDS Day. We'll have it up for 3 months. So I encourage, once we change that out in April, you all to come back by and look at it, and encourage the public to as well. Okay, for COVID update, I just want to point out that all of our community-based vaccination clinics or events are now staffed with our Carson City staff. We don't have any support from the National Guard. We do have one FEMA individual. She's a local hire, and she'll be with us for a very short time. But just wanted to point out that those staff are out and at those events. And I also want to point out that we received 30,000 at-home COVID testing kits. That was to be distributed to the Quad counties. We worked with the city and county managers and emergency managers. They identified where they wanted them to go, and then we distributed them. The two individuals that worked on this, Sherry Gennon, and she's our FEMA local hire, and Hayden Cook, he served as our accreditation coordinator and he's a public health program specialist. They got those out in 48 hours. So they hustled, and this is to 4 counties. And in addition, besides those 30,000, WIC has some, Human Services, and Ryan White. They have additional ones that go for their clients. And then our library has secured quite a few separate of this. So that's, if you can't get them in our facility or agency, then you can go to the library.
Do you know, Nikki, if you can still just as a citizen direct request them, or is that period ended? Do you know?
I
The answer to
believe
that?
you,
Because I did it like right away, and I got my 4 in the mail. They shipped right away, and they showed up. So, do you know, Dr. Lyons? If that,
I haven't heard that program's been stopped.
okay,
So I
so
assume
people
it's
can always
still-
go right online and just, if you haven't done it, you can get 4 per address, per postal address sent to you. That's either PO box or a home.
and it's two packages.
2 packages,
two
each
tests in
contain 2
each.
tests, correct. So if you're a household with 2 people, you can each test or whatever the case may be.
And what's a little different about these at-home tests that were distributed, it's 1 test. So we're encouraging people to go ahead and give them 2 packages for 2 tests. A little bit different than what was in the agenda. I do have a change on who's going to talk about what's happening in our community as far as treatments. On the WebEx, I have Julia Peak. She's the Deputy Administrator of the Department of Behavioral and Public Health, and she's going to talk about how the state is helping to get treatments out there for our residents.
Hi, this is Julia Peak. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Lyons, and the board for having me. This is one of the most important presentations that I feel like I've had the opportunity to give for our 2 years of the pandemic. I do just want to know if you need any help ordering your at-home test kits, please let us know. I'm going to give you an 800 number in a second, and they can help you with vaccination, testing, and therapeutics. And so they can go ahead and fill out the information for you to order those test kits if you have not already. So just want to make sure that we demystify that process and just get as many test kits in our state as possible. So again, Julia Peak with the Division of Public and Behavioral Health, and I serve as one of the deputy administrators and have been working on the COVID response for the last 2 years. Now transitioning to really supporting therapeutics and other things, because it's really the third wave of us being able to support our residents through not only vaccination, testing, and epidemiology, but now therapeutics. And so we've done a number of great things. I know it is really helpful to have this information in front of you on paper, and I heard that, but I'll just let you know I'm going to walk through our website. And so if folks are viewing this, you just go to nvhealthresponse.nv.gov, and on the top, click Find Treatment, and I'm going to go ahead and walk through the therapeutics that we've put in place so that everybody knows how to navigate those services. So as I mentioned earlier, we have the 1-800 number. I'm going to just say it slowly right now, 1-800-401-0946. And you can call them between 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. every day. And so they can help you navigate vaccination, testing options, and therapeutics. And so with therapeutics, Nevada has devoted over $19 million to ensure that our residents can get free therapeutics. And the system that we've set up is really phenomenal. And it's been hard to navigate the therapeutic options. And so we've launched in the last few weeks this great option. So if you go to our website, scroll down a little bit, and you're going to find free state-supported services. So what you can first do if you, well, I'll start with pre-exposure prophylaxis. So there's a therapeutic out there called Shield, and that drug is actually used for folks who are immunocompromised and need an additional level of protection. We offer Shield. Either you could come to our fixed site in Reno, or we will visit you at your home and make sure you get that Shield dose. That applies not only to Shield, the pre-exposure prophylaxis, but also to the monoclonal antibody treatment therapies, and I'll talk about those in a second as well. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to our website or call the 1-800 number, and then you're going to do a pre-screening if you're positive. If you do the pre-screening and you're negative and you just want Shield, we'll make sure you get that appointment booked and get that. It can give you up to 6 months of additional support. So hopefully if you do get infected during that period of time, your illness is very mild. So we do have a fixed site option in Reno, and then we also offer free telehealth visits for all our residents. And so once you or a family member or a friend tests positive for COVID, first thing you need to do is come to our website or call the 800 number. We're going to do that pre-screening. If it appears that you are at high risk for severe disease and you happen to be within 3 days of symptom onset, we're going to go ahead and write you a prescription for an oral antiviral medication. They're available through a variety of pharmacies throughout our communities. The individual should not be charged for that oral antiviral. Very effective, up to 90% effective in some cases to reduce the severity of that disease. If it turns out that you're between 4 and 10 days of symptom onset, we're going to go ahead and, as long as you qualify, recommend a monoclonal antibody therapy. There were a number of additional monoclonal antibody therapies or MABs in the community prior to Omicron, but with this variant, there's only a few that continue to work, but we do have that option. And so if it turns out you need the MAB, you can either go to the site in Reno, or we will do a home health option. And that applies to anybody within Carson City that's eligible, and again, within that 10 days. So we'll just do that pre-screening with you. You'll get your telehealth visit, again, for free. And then we're gonna book you an appointment either for your home health visit, or if you're able and want to, you can certainly come to our Reno site as well. So again, just to really quickly talk through the medications. So we do have the Shield pre-exposure prophylaxis. We have 2 oral antiviral medications, Paxlovid and Molnupiravir. Really, really good option should that be appropriate. And then we do have several monoclonal antibody treatments. I'll just say the pharmaceutical companies are working hard to come out with medications, both pre-exposure and post-exposure, that can really help us live with COVID. And so we are really fluid in our response, and as the federal partners provide more therapeutics for us, we're going to push them out through this program. Our free program is certainly not the only program. You can continue to get services at hospitals, or if your physician wants to write you a prescription and you're going to them, that's certainly appropriate and allowable. We just wanted to make sure that we remove the barriers to treatment. I know personally I've tried to navigate the therapeutics for family and friends, and it was really difficult. And so we just hope that this demystifies the process. And I just want to emphasize, as soon as you test positive, if you think that you are at risk of severe disease or death, please, please, please reach out to us as soon as possible, because if we can get you an oral antiviral, hopefully we will keep you out of the hospital. And that's really the goal of the program, to ensure equitable access, easy access, and to make sure that our hospital beds stay open for other reasons. So thank you so much for letting me present. Happy to take questions if you have any.
Can we just get that phone number again, please?
Yep, you got it. It is 1-800-401-0946. Again, 1-800-401-0946. And if I am able, I will go ahead and place it in the chat section of this as well.
And I want to say I did check out the Nevada Health Response, their treatment website, and have put that as a widget on my cell phone. And it's excellent. I pretended as though I had tested positive for COVID, that I was compromised, blah, blah, blah. And it came right down to, let us schedule you a visit to get treated. So I'm glad to hear about the Paxlovid, that's going to be available, the pills, if you screen early. So the big thing that I hope that we'll all get out of the COVID pandemic is, A, masks do make a difference if it's a viral respiratory illness in terms of decreasing the spread. That we should consider decreasing the spread. When we're sick with a cold, we probably shouldn't go to work and share it with everyone we know. That we should wash our hands, as our mother has always told us. So those are the things that I hope we're going to get out of this historical moment that we've all lived through, and we appear to be much, much closer to the other side of, quote, a return to a new normal. Thank you, Julia. That website is great, especially with the pre-treatment screen, the self-screen, so you can really find out and dig down. Do I need to pursue this or not? Thank you.
And Julia, I want to thank you. So thank you to the State of Nevada leadership, and Julia's been very instrumental in getting this set up. And she agreed to come on at the last minute, and so thank you very much, Julia.
Any questions or comments about what you need to do if you screen positive for COVID? Do we take questions from the community? Denny?
It's hard to be cute.
You have to come up to the mic. I will say that part for you, sorry.
Thank you, Dr. Lyon and Mayor. Denny French, Carson City. My thing is, I had prepared my concerns that I would wanted to ask you about. It was a bit hard to find about teenage pregnancies, about UCT, STDs, abortions, sexual assaults, domestic violence. Teen vaping is something that you have in your deal here. And I think after having seen a presentation you all put on about withdrawals and the complications of the use, where are the schools in that, and how are you handling that as a department relating to the schools and their responses?
Well, some of the data that you said is not in the current report that Nikki put out. That data, like
Right.
on the sexual assault, is handled through the SART committee itself.
Right, I just wanted you to know that I had those, but the vaping is in the agenda. It's under youth vaping in the media stated. And so I looked that up and didn't have time to, the library has a restraint time thing as well as far as use of computers. So I didn't get that far, but the thing for me is, what are the health department responsibilities towards a school, a board of school education and such, as far as relating to withdrawals or such? I know I see advertised on television, if you're having vaping, join this group and we're suing this company and such. Are the schools looking into any access to that so that they could fund some of their efforts to help children that are
So
dealing?
one thing I would say, Denny, is that as the Board of Health and as the Health Department, we don't represent the schools, but we certainly work with the schools. And in regards to vaping, it is a huge issue among teenagers here in Carson City. We're outranking the rest of the state in this problem for kids, which is not a good thing. And the health department has done a lot of social media outreach in terms of the vaping issues and targeting those things that work for teens to make them aware of the issue, and also outreach materials for parents about how to address the issue with their kids. So we went from smoking, kids don't smoke, they know, they got that message, but they vape. And so it's a new message we need to put out about vaping.
Thank you very much. I have lots more, but as you know from knowing me, I could talk to you all day about my questions. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Denny.
And then I'll just add to what Dr. Lyons said. We also do presentations in the schools, or we'll do presentations anywhere, whoever will let us. We're still having some difficulty getting into some of the schools because of COVID, but we're not giving up.
Nikki, to continue with your presentation. Oh, you had we'll let another question then. I'm sorry, what meeting?
You have to turn the mic on, ma'am.
I'm not good at this. On the 4th, this is a health meeting that you guys are going to have, and it didn't make sense to me, so I decided to ask.
You might be talking about the State Board of Health is meeting
that the State
tomorrow.
Board?
And
That's the one I went to last time. I don't know.
the State Board of Health is a little bit more difficult to participate in because I think you have to put in for public comments in advance.
I'll do
of
that.
The agenda. And it's held, because it's the state, it's held via Zoom.
Okay, that's why it's in Zoom only.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
but we feed into that, this board feeds into that, our health department feeds into that, the information. So
Okay.
if you bring something here, we can take it forward.
Well, I'm going to email you a big old stuff of information. And so instead of, you heard me say what I said about research, I'm going to send it to you. I have it on here, but I don't know how to do all that. I got to get my daughter to help me.
Okay.
Okay?
Great.
And
Thank
for
you.
you too, Lori.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll turn it off.
Okay, Nikki, did you have more? Yes, on your report.
Do you have much more, Nikki?
Yeah, that's right. 10 o'clock, we needed to break for momentarily for
Thank you.
a presentation honoring our former mayors.
Thank you so much. So
We're going to adjourn.
recess, we don't adjourn.
Recess, all right. Okay,
Okay.
recess until 10:20?
That's perfect.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'm so excited today. Thing that we don't often get to do, but I want to go on record starting with thanking the Foundation for Carson City Parks and Recreation. It has afforded a vehicle for many in our community to have an opportunity to support its park system. So it's a fundraising arm to beautify all of the areas of our parks. And we were very fortunate to have a former mayor, Ray Maseko. Come on up. Come on up. It's really really touched my heart to be able to work with former Mayor Ray Maseko. I'm just going to continue to call him Mayor Maseko because that's what it really is, right? We'll go with the kind stuff because he's really done a great job, and I'm amazed when I look at he graduated from Mineral County High School, and I laugh because I say little old Hawthorne did pretty good because that's where my husband graduated, and they really go back that far. So it's really, we're still a small state, right? And we're all one community. So I was really really excited and Jim was so excited when he said, I can't believe Ray's doing this. He graduated from UNR, and he worked for Sierra Pacific Power Company, which is NV Energy now. So, yep, 25 years. And then I know one of Ronnie's proudest moments is all the time of how many of her chamber officers come onto the board, right? So how many chamber members, yep, see, Stan, all of us, Bob, but Ray. And so I think the other thing that was really neat, at the last retreat meeting, Supervisor Giomi had made this recommendation about maybe considering Citizens of the Year. Well, Mr. Maseko here, our mayor, was the Carson City Citizen of the Year in 1991. So, right? That's right. It's something we really need to celebrate. And then it is appreciated, isn't it? I look at all the other things that he's worked on, the Nevada Day committees and parades and Warren Engine Company honorary member. And I am reminded about all the mayors and board members that we've had in this community, that they're not just a mayor, right? They're not. They really care about their community. They do service everywhere. And even when they're not a mayor anymore, they keep on giving. They do. And so I really wanted to also highlight that one of the things I had forgotten that was really on Ray's term, you know, every time when you're a mayor, I think you look back over your service and go, gosh, what did I achieve for my community? What's my thing? And I had forgotten until I was taking a brief cruise back through all the activities that you did. He was the mayor from 1996 to 2004. And so he really helped shepherd our redevelopment district, right? All that good work that we do. And I had forgotten that it was really under Ray's term that we did this great work. And I think it's probably one for you that you couldn't see any immediate result. So again, it's that long term that you're now seeing all the fruition of that hard work in our beautiful new downtown.
We all serve at a continuum there.
It just keeps on going.
You come into this continuum and you contribute, turn it over to your successor.
Yeah.
That's kind of how government works.
Yeah, I am just really excited. He also worked on the relocation of City Hall, right, to the downtown.
I was the first mayor to occupy the corner office, so during my term, we moved down to downtown.
And I think I redecorated it, though. I'm sorry. I did do that.
Okay. Yeah, well, you redecorated this room, too, as I note. Couldn't hardly find my way around.
Yeah, and then also the courthouse was reconstructed and done during your term.
And I read in the newspaper where some of the folks over there think they've outgrown it already, so.
How does that happen?
I don't know.
But
I could say something wise, but I'm not going to.
probably better not to. But I really wanted to just take a moment to let everyone know that the mayor felt very strongly about celebrating together as all the mayors, right? And to have somewhere in our community that all the members could recognize all the service, not just his service or my service or Mayor Bob. And, you know, where is it that we have a place to celebrate? So I'm just excited that the mayor approached the foundation, because it is, I will admit, a tax deductible foundation where people that want to do good work. There's Paul from the foundation too. Thank you for coming today. To donate a place. So he did two things for us. One we're going to do today. We're going to just stop here and go outside, and we're going to unveil the first thing, the tree of service. So we'll do that. And then he also did a little bit later, we'll set up a ribbon cutting celebration and party at Mayor's Park. He put in a beautiful kiosk and 4 benches to really bring that park alive. And I went by the other day and just can't believe the small improvements that just lift it. And so he again continues to be that community member that still loves it, wants to do for it, and I'm just eternally grateful.
Me too, and Mayor.
Please.
You need to approach a microphone.
There you go. Come on up.
But Mayor, I've got to, first of all, thank you and recognize you for picking up the idea that I had, bringing it to a
conclusion and fruition. And it is once Mayor Bagwell got a hold of my idea, it was stand back, and that's what I did. And so take the credit, Mayor, because these things that we will unveil today and later are part of what your ideas and your vision brings to this process. So they are great. I was at Mayor's Park yesterday and counted the number of mayors that we've had in Carson City, 41 since final incorporation. And you're the 41st. And, as I thought back on this, I think of where I sit today in this community. I am the last living elected mayor of Carson City. I felt a kind of an obligation to those who came before me and those who will come after me to recognize them all in one location. It's kind of hard when you think about, one of my relatives was a mayor of Carson City. When? Who was he? And it was hard to find that information. And these two, the unveiling and the Mayor's Park, will help cure that situation. It's not necessarily taught in schools anymore, but the dedication and the work that all of these individuals, both men and women, have brought to this community needed to be recognized and formalized. And so I very much appreciate the opportunity to have you help me make that come to a conclusion and a fruition. So I thank you for that, and I thank the city for its efforts. This idea in my head came back in 2020. And the idea said, because I was invited to former Mayor Scribner's dedication of a bench down on 3rd Street. And I was going through some health problems then. I couldn't make it. And I thought, here's his family dedicating a bench, and the city doesn't have any recognition of the first mayor of Carson City Consolidated, who is Eugene Scribner. And the idea festered in my head. I talked to Ronnie at the Chamber of Commerce and found out how to do benches and things of that nature. In 2020, as the first thing besides my health challenges, COVID took over. And so my ideas kind of lay dormant for a while, and I didn't do anything with it. And then when I got an idea, I'm always willing to support it. And if it takes some dollars to make it happen, that's part of what I do. I mean, a lot of people who get into public service or public office have great ideas on the taxpayers' money. And I kind of think if I've got a great idea, I'll put some of my own money into it. And so I did. When you came into office and talked to you, you talked about some of the things I wanted to do. And when I talked to you about some of the things you thought were the way to go, we arrived at a conclusion, and it took off from there. And so in the past year, Mayor Bagwell has helped make this happen, and we celebrate that today. Mayor, thank you
so much. And I
Great
want to
job.
just do one last shout out to the Parks, Recreation, and Open Space team that helped us at Mayor's Park and hanging this and doing the work. I'm not sure if facilities helped, but it's, again, a testament to our community that when we decide to get something done, we do it.
We do it,
We do it.
absolutely.
So I hope that you will all come out. Oh, wait a minute, Stan.
Yeah.
I invited each of the members of our board if they just wanted to say a brief something, and Stan asked, so go ahead.
I first met Ray Maseko in Hawthorne many years ago. A mutual friend, Joe Vianney, who had Joe's Tavern, called me, and I worked for the National Guard in those days.
The tavern, right?
Yeah. I worked for the National Guard in those days, and Joe Vianney and everybody in Hawthorne provided a free Thanksgiving dinner for those that needed it. And the guard provided all the mess equipment. And I was down just to make sure we had everything in line. And Joe Vianney said, "There's a guy I want you to meet. And don't hold it against me," but he said he is a pretty good guy. I met Ray Maseko, and he had an apron on. And he was helping prepare the Thanksgiving dinner. And the next thing I knew, I had an apron on. And that was probably 45 years ago, Ray. And here we are, and you're still doing public service.
Thank you,
appreciate
Stan.
your
Thank you for
friendship.
those words, and we are still doing public
That's
service,
right.
even those many years ago and still
That's right.
today.
Supervisor Giomi?
Yeah, I think, Mayor Maseko brought up our first mayor, Doc Scribner, and for those of us who live here now, really don't think much about that. I moved to Carson City in 1977, and we, in the late 60s, up to the late 60s, of course, it was a city and a county. And so I think about it now, and I think really that was probably in my mind the start of what cohesed this community together into one. Because before that, we had a city and a county, and we had New Empire, which was sort of almost its own city. And so I look at those forefathers and what Doc Scribner and the county commission and the city council did at the time to go to the legislature, and really we should thank them, because and I've said this before, I feel like Carson City is unique in the state of Nevada because we, number one, obviously we're a city county, that makes us unique in the country because there's very few of those. But there are really no places in the state of Nevada where you experience community the way you experience it here. And one of the reasons for that is because of that combined government. There is no bickering.
Yep.
Well, there's some bickering, but let's put that aside.
Well,
There's really no material bickering.
Yeah.
And because of our geography, we're sort of forced to live with each other, right, in this community. And so to me, that's what makes, there's really no place else in the state of Nevada that's like that. I mean, you can think of any county or any city in the state, and that parochial feeling of, we're us and they're them, it doesn't happen here. And I think that's what I'm most appreciative of about Carson City. And I think that really started when that combination happened. So
I agree, Supervisor Giomi, and that was, we are the smallest county in the whole state of Nevada with only like about 146 square miles. So it made sense to consolidate. And I will tell you, I'm kind of a student of government. It probably makes sense to some other counties to do something similar, but they don't do it. So I am proud of Carson City and its people and its voters and the visionaries back in 1969 who, the consolidation question appeared on the ballot in Carson City several years before 1969, and every year it was turned down. But Mayor Jim Robertson and the city manager took the bull by the horns and went to the legislature and got the question on the ballot. And, it wasn't very popular probably in Carson City, but it was the right thing to do. And since that time, there have been 7 people who have served Carson City in that mayor in some 53 years. And that's not very many folks, because Carson City was pretty happy with its mayors, and every one of them, except for Mayor Flammer, have served at least 2 terms. And so Carson City has embraced this form of government, and this form of government has been good for Carson City. And I'm proud to be a citizen. I'm also proud to be a former mayor, but we are a unique community and we represent ourselves very well.
Don't we? We do. Anybody else? Okay, well, let's go see this beautiful.
I know you're
tree.
anxious to unveil. Let's unveil, Mayor.
We've had it on there, and so it's time for everyone to. And just one final for the public to recognize, I really want to thank the chamber and Mayor Maseko and I, we're working on what's a little thumbnail about each of the mayors of the things they accomplished or something they were, again, to have that history that we don't want to lose it, right? So we'll be putting that on the website as we get that done. And if any members of the public have updates or know more information about something that we should add, we'd be happy to do that too. But we look forward to adding that component. So, thank you, Mayor. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Lyons, for giving me that recess.
I enjoy the visual arts, and I think that tree it's great. It looks beautiful. It's really nice.
It turned out really well.
So, Nikki, we will resume with your presentation.
Thank you. For the record, Nikki Aker, Director of Carson City Health and Human Services. So I'm going to continue with the Health Department's report. I'm on the Chronic Disease Division, and they, as a quality improvement project, created a video and a logo that's within the packet, and they wanted to highlight the services that went on in chronic disease.
Life can get really complicated. Juggling responsibilities can make it hard to take time for yourself and your health. There are many different circumstances that can affect your well-being, but getting access to the things you need the most to take care of yourself is the first step. Chronic health issues often need more time, attention, conversation, and care. At Carson City Health and Human Services, we're here to help. When it comes to using vaping or tobacco products, we get that it's not the easiest thing in the world to get away from. But we can show you how to stay tobacco-free. Did you actually want to start vaping or smoking? Or did someone get you to do it, and now you can't stop? We raise awareness of what tobacco-related issues look like in the community, and can help you eliminate your exposure to all of it for good. The Adolescent Health Education Program focuses on giving you information to move forward in making safe sex choices in your relationships. Sex is a big decision, and we can help you make the right choice for you. From unplanned pregnancy support to HIV and STD education, making your decision is easier when you know what you're getting into. Diabetes isn't just a finger prick. It's about making the right choices and remembering to take care of yourself when it isn't the easiest and everything feels overwhelming. We can help connect you with services that support you throughout your day-to-day, from what to eat and how to deal with feeling different in real-life situations. Break through the barriers to HIV and AIDS treatment. For those who have been newly diagnosed to those currently seeking treatment, you're never alone in this. The Ryan White program is for people living with HIV who are uninsured or underinsured to help them get primary medical care and the support they need, from medication to transportation, no matter how hectic life gets. We're here for you. We can give you the support you need to get you back to living your life as it's meant to be led, healthy. CCHHS understands what you're going through. We're here to improve your quality of life by offering a helping hand and a listening ear to inspire your confidence and a renewed sense of self. Let's get healthy.
So this video is streaming on our TV in the lobby, and then we get it out anywhere that will let us put it on there. Uh-oh.
Chronic diseases are everyone's business. Many of
Okay, and talking about the adolescent health education, that's where Veronica or Ronnie Gallus went. And they are focusing still on recruitment and retention of agencies that will let us provide our education. It is a evidence-based education, and Ronnie's getting pretty creative on where she's targeting. And in the past, we went into the schools, and of course, because of COVID, that is an issue. Within our tobacco control and prevention program, that's where we're targeting the vaping. And on this slide, you'll see some of the social media posts that have gone out. We have a contractor that does this for us, and it's highlighting the attracting addiction. And these go out weekly with new ones. And I wanted to show you a interview that the coordinator at the state did as far as vaping. And just a little side note, before I start this video, these products that you see there were purchased with the grant that we have. And myself, the program coordinator, and Nicole, who's the state program coordinator, went to a local vape shop. And what I found out is how much I don't know and how fast it's changing. And the store clerk was very helpful, giving us information about what products this younger individuals are buying. And I will bring my tobacco coordinator to one of our meetings, and so she can do a presentation and let you see what these products look like. So, oh.
Need headlights?
That's what you get when you want free stuff. You gotta take a little extra, someone's ad.
Oh, it's not, the volume's not working.
You did.
It is, okay.
You did
I
by
did?
accident. Well, when you wanted to zap the ad, you took the noise.
Okay.
I don't know if she has to click in that somewhere, yeah.
Oh, technology. Oh, okay.
So glad to have you here because you have a very here with us on Colo 8 Morning Break. Joining me today is Nicole Dutra. Now, you are the Youth Tobacco Prevention Coordinator, and I'm so glad to have you here because you have a very important message. But let's first kind of talk about what this program even is.
All right, the Tobacco Control Program is really focused on reducing the amount of tobacco use in the state of Nevada so that Nevadans can live healthier, longer lives. We work with several different coalitions and health districts throughout the state that help us implement all the programs, interventions, work with youth, adults, and it's by a whole group of very passionate people.
I can tell you're probably one of them. What exactly is your role?
So I'm the Youth Tobacco Prevention Coordinator. So my role is very focused on preventing the initiation of tobacco use among youth, and which has been very challenging. The CDC this past year did a survey, and the results showed that about 20% of youth nationwide are using e-cigarettes or vaping, as it is also called. And in the state of Nevada, the statistic is even higher. It is just over 24%, which equals 1 out of every 4.
Wow.
1 out of every 4 high school students are using e-cigarettes or vaping and just don't understand how dangerous and what it's going to do to their health.
Yeah, and I think that's really interesting because, you know, for adults who might be listening, you know, you might have grown up with something completely different, and so you are aware of what those products are. But the kids nowadays, they've seen this evolution of tobacco products, and really that's what we're here now. If you guys want to take a look at what we have on our table, I mean, this is just a small sampling of the different types of products that are out there. What are some of the ones that are really popular or the ones that you want to talk about the most?
I think the most importantly is for parents to know what these items look like. If you saw this plugged into a laptop charging, would you even think that this was a device of some sort that was being used to smoke tobacco.
Yeah.
And literally, it's done through these e-juices, which seem to be what the real problem is. They come in all these flavors: lemon tart, grape, blueberry muffin.
Oh, those kid-focused flavors.
Yes, and it's the tobacco industry, the e-cigarette industry, marketing these items, and they're marketing it directly to our youth. They're doing it through social media, and as we know, our kids are growing up in this generation where they're on the internet. They are on social media all the time.
Yeah.
And the tobacco industry knows this, and they're doing it. I mean, it's just like, I'm sure we could all recall the Marlboro Man.
Sure, yeah.
And Camel Joe. And it's basically the same thing. And they are targeting this population of our youth, and they're trying to make customers for life.
Yeah, and so it's really important that parents know what these products look like so that if they see them around their home, they can kind of be aware and have a flag. But we also have a message to retailers to be very, very intentional about their marketing campaigns to help keep our kids safe.
Yes, this past year, Nevada did one of the greatest things. Our legislature passed Tobacco 21 law, which prohibits the sale of tobacco products, including e-cigarettes, vape devices, e-juices, to youth, anyone under the age of 21. And so our focus really is to partner with retailers of tobacco products throughout the state. And the Tobacco Control Program has developed an entire training and certification website online at responsibletobacconv.com. And it provides everything they need to know, from federal and state laws regarding tobacco down to how to properly check an identification.
Wow, that is so important. If you missed that website, don't worry. colotv.com is where you can go at the end of the show. We're going to have an article with this interview up there along with all of those links so that parents, students, and of course those retailers can know how they can get involved. And really, it's all about keeping our kids safe, because we don't want these products in their hands and then risk further other things down the road in their lives.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Katie.
Thank you so much, Nicole, for being here. We really appreciate it. And we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Okay, so if any of you know any agencies that would like a presentation on vaping, I know who to put you in touch with. I'm going to talk real briefly before I go on to human services about environmental health and epidemiology. As you can see from the charts that I provided, temporary events, 2020 were nil, either zero or very few. Douglas County had 2, and they're back to having temporary events. And then if you have any questions on violations, I have Dustin Booth here that can answer those questions for you. Okay. And epidemiology, you have in your packet comparison of these statistics from 19, 20, and 21. I'll be moving forward and giving you quarter statistics, so you can see the comparisons on quarters. And since we finished up with 2021, that's, I'm not going to do the fourth quarter, but next in June, you'll have that first quarter. So if there's any questions on those statistics, Dustin's here, can answer them. And if not, I'll move on. Good?
On this advertisement of the programs that people can get onto a joint dispute with the companies that are making those, are any of the schools being plugged into those that they could maybe become part of the going to court for monies from these organizations or something? You know?
I don't.
So we're going to have to hold on the question, Denny. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, human services, I want to congratulate our our employee, Christy Contreras. She completed the Community Health Worker certification. She's been a great addition to Human Services in getting those connections, those warm handoffs done, and just helping our residents that need a little bit of
She's
help.
really doing a fantastic job. She was a great, sorry to say, we had to take her from a nonprofit, but what a great find for Carson City to get Christy on our team. So just thank her. She's doing a good job.
And then within Human Services, they've kicked off what's going to be a year-long project or a quality improvement project, and to advance our agency into a trauma-informed agency. So more to come on that later as that continues on. And just when you're looking at the statistics of individuals that we have helped through Human Services, pay attention, some are fiscal year and some are calendar year. It depends on what the grant reporting is, because this is how we get these statistics. And I just want to point out, when you look at individuals assisted, we have helped 28 households stay either where they're living or get into a apartment or house. So, and that's all grant funded. And through COVID, Human Services staff responded to 20 requests for wraparound services. And also, we were able to house 5 residents that were impacted by COVID that did not have a place to isolate or quarantine. Within our WIC program, or Women, Infants, and Children, they saw in Carson City a total of 344 participants. And we also have a clinic in Douglas County. It's grant funded. And this program is grant funded, and we are grant funded to do Douglas County as well. And they saw a total of 177. As far as the sexual assault responses, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that, what happens with sexual assault cases, and that we're going to go through the entire process. So Human Services received 85 new applications for counseling funds. That doesn't mean that all those funds have been paid out, but and I want to point out that counties are mandated to pay for costs for medical and psychological treatment up to $1,000, and that's in NRS 217.320. In 2021, we had 7 sexual assault exams. So the exams are just part of that process. And so far in 2022, we've had 2.
And we're aiming for 0 tolerance there. We want 0.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
very nice. I do want to point out for going on, of this report, it's on page 14. I don't know what it is in your packet, but for administrative, at the health department, we have 76 total employees, and I've broken down where, if they're city employees or contract employees. As far as accreditation, we have not heard anything yet. They did say it was going to take a while because there were many agencies in front of us. Now, talking about our 3rd community health needs assessment. So this assessment, it's important because this looks at our entire community health and that whole public health system. If you can remember what I call the jelly bean diagram, how many different agencies are part of public health. So it's looking at all that and where are our gaps. So this will be our third one. And then this, what we get out of the community health needs assessment, that will lead to the community health improvement plan and then our strategic plan. So we are collaborating with Carson Tahoe Hospital for this assessment. We have used their data and the information they collected for the last one, but this is going to be a very collaborative effort in that we'll partake in some of the assessments they're doing. They're going to help with our assessments. We do have 4 different assessments that we do to feed back into the entire needs assessment. So what I would like from all of you is there's going to be a stakeholder group and just input on who those stakeholders should be. You know, we're already looking at the business community and, you know, our local public health partners. But definitely if you have somebody in mind that you want us to include, I would love that feedback. And you don't need to provide it now unless you want to, or I'm happy to talk with you later as things come up. Because if you're like me, I think of those things in the middle of the night. You can text me in the middle of the night because my phone's not near me. But anyway, I'll be happy to take that feedback. Oh, here. In your packet, I included what these different assessments are, and then also how they all fit together. That chart is also up on the screen. So, and then just wanted to give you a little insight into the vacant positions. Our full-time fiscal grant analyst, this is turning into a very difficult position to fill. And so it is still open. Environmental Health Division Manager, we do have some interviews coming up. Have not received a lot of applications on that. So hopefully these interviews that we have set up, hopefully we can identify a good candidate. We are still looking for a disease investigator. I was determining if that was going to be an internal post or external, and it is going to be external, so that will get posted. And I'm going to bring this next position to IFC next week, but it's a public health investigator and a public health nurse. We have grant funds for it, and so hopefully we can get that position going as well. Part-time, we're looking for an intern with tobacco that will help with some of the surveys and some of the work that's being done in tobacco. You can see that there's a lot with the youth vaping, and a bilingual public health nurse for clinical services. And I already talked about our difficult recruitment, and we talked about the space issues last week. So this is the calendar of events, and if you want to be involved in any of these meetings or task force, just let me know. This State Board of Health meeting, there is one tomorrow. It usually will follow right after ours, and then there's one June 3rd. And the Northern Nevada Behavioral Health Policy Board, which was brought up earlier, and if you want that contact, I can get it to you. And then there's some National Association of Local Boards of Health opportunities for you. And then the NACHO, which is the National Association of County and City Health Officials Conference.
Oh, if I may, Dr. Lyons, just to let you know, is the board, that first committee, the Affordable Housing Group, we should be bringing forward the recommendations for our homeless issues. That's the committee and subcommittee that's been working on that. We did some really good work yesterday to start to really bring it to recommendations to bring forward to this board to fund and just first steps and methods to get going. So I just want to let you know, you should see that. I think we're trying to target it for the second meeting in April. So we'll be able to then coordinate that with what we did at the retreat for the ARP money, for the homeless 2-year project. So we should start seeing the ability to dovetail those two actions together. So I hope that, and thank Lisa's been doing all that work with me and the health and a whole bunch of people from the community. So just want to.
Mayor,
Again,
for clarification, you're bringing that forward to the Board of Supervisors?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Thank you for that, Mayor. I was going to bring that up during our annual report.
There you go. We
It's
did good
out.
work yesterday.
And if there's any questions for me, if there's not, that concludes my report.
I have, it's actually more of a comment. So first of all, the presentation or the video about vaping, I think it's wonderful, the way it was presented. And one of the quotes was, when you know what you're getting into. It's so important because having been a health teacher and, students, and I think we as people, folks don't want to be told what to do. And I've said this before, if I say, don't look at the ceiling, now we're all going to look because we're curious why we shouldn't. And so that emphasizing risks, and for vaping, for tobacco, for drug use, there are the risks of the health risks, of course. There are also those risks, especially to kids, when you think about it in terms of dollars, in terms of expense, in terms of friendships or opportunities. And sometimes kids don't think about it that way. They know that they have a friend who uses, or a parent, or perhaps they use, and so far nothing bad has happened. And so living in the moment, it's easy for kids to stay in the moment. But when we're talking about what's the expense, so vaping, what do you spend on the oil or the paraphernalia? And then they might say, well, my friend gives it to me. Okay, how long will your friend want to do that? Because what is your friend spending? So I just think this is wonderful, and I applaud you. On talking about the involvement, so on the community health improvement program and the community themes, the local public health, community health status, and forces of change. It is so important, and I see that forces of change that provide opportunities, those opportunities of change. And mentioning before that healthcare isn't, we need it as how do we stay healthy versus sick care. And this is that way to really help the community as a whole, or we as individuals, live healthier lives, whether it's physically, whether it's emotionally, or whether it's the opportunity to be healthier. And that truly is a partnership with all of us, with all departments in the city, with communities, with neighborhoods, with individuals and friendships, all of it. So thanks.
Yes, within public health, it encompasses a lot. And we can't do what we do without all of our collaborations, and it is everybody. And it's a lot of things that people don't think of. Clean air, clean water, that's stuff that we aren't connected to or have enforcement in it other than the, smoking in restaurants. But it's everybody. And public health looks at what can we do before they hit the hospital system.
Absolutely. And even what Dr. Lyons, when you were speaking earlier about sexually transmitted infections, and not just affecting the person, but could be affecting a pregnancy. And the long-term consequences of that and the cost, again, to our health system and insurance and all of that. So it is just so far-reaching. So really, thank you for bringing this to our attention and keeping it at the forefront.
Does anyone have any other comments? I just want to make some highlights, and that is, as a physician, when vaping products first came out, I was in practice, and it looked like a way to possibly help some people less expensively to switch from smoking. Subsequently, that's been shown to be a really big problem, in part because there's so much nicotine that they're very, very addictive, and the best way to get any kind of addictive substance is to inhale it. That's the quickest and fastest way for it to go right to your brain and make those addictive connections. But in addition, vaping is very problematic because it comes with a lot of oils. And so we're seeing problems with young people who are vaping, middle-aged people who are vaping. Whereas when we look at smoking, it would appear that the human body has been equipped itself over evolutionary time period to be able to tolerate smoke and dust and such. And so we don't see those consequences until later, whether it's cancer or COPD. But when it comes to vaping, we're seeing the, quote, long-term consequences much earlier. So if we've got 25%, 1 in 4 of our kids vaping on a high nicotine product, we've got an addiction issue going forward and a big healthcare wave coming towards us. So any work that we can do in regards to the prevention of our kids getting started is good. And then I want to point out that the WIC program helped 344 participants in the Carson City area, 177 participants in the Gardnerville area, and nutrition for mothers and babies. This is another one of those investments that the return on dollar is just huge. So the expenses we're not going to have to incur later because we actually fed them now is critical. Health and Human Services Assisted is on target to assist approximately 500 different individuals this year. And of course, that kind of work is very labor intensive, very one-on-one. And in regards to the community health needs assessment, we want to have this, as we talked about earlier, community, community, community. And community is a broad-based input. So that's public health, that's businesses, of course, that's the hospital, the nursing homes, the healthcare system, that's nonprofits, that's the faith-based community. I mean, anything that you can think of, even this guy here, the sheriff, your criminal justice system or paramedics, whatever. So please bring forward those contacts that you have that can participate in that stakeholder meeting in terms of what is it that we want to work on? What are we doing well that we could expand on? What areas do we need to, bite off and start to chew on? I want to point out that we're looking for that deputy director who it's very important to help Nikki out because she's currently, when you look at all the employees that she's managing, the public health department is a rather large department. I don't have that number right in front of me right now, but that's large numbers. So we're looking for that deputy director, and we're looking at dividing Dustin's position into epidemiology and environmental health. So we're going to be able to do more there. Those are the two big positions.
And then I'll just add, if I can add on the community health needs assessment, also we want community members, the residents that may not be directly involved with some of these agencies, but we need to bring them into that process. That's something that we've lacked in the past, and I want to really focus in on that. Update on the deputy director, the position is closed. I'm going through 19 applications, so we had a good number of applicants, and we'll be interviewing. I was hoping to get it done this week, and things just didn't happen in my favor, so I'm hoping that we can interview next week. And all of that, the deputy director and the environmental health division manager were made possible with the ARPA funds that you all voted yes on for me, and I thank all of you.
So, Nikki, if we were to reach out to some of our residents to participate, what type of time commitment am I arm twisting them to give? Yeah, and when? So
It will probably be, I would say, probably July or August for the residents. And what we will have is a survey for them to complete. So I may ask some of them to participate in an in-person. And the in-person sessions take anywhere from 2 to 3 hours.
a survey in 2 to 3 hours. Okay.
Can you comment on the stakeholders, like the director of the senior center? If those people want to step forward, what kind of time commitments will they be looking at?
That would still be like a 2 to 3 hour meeting.
And a
As
survey.
As we collect, probably for the stakeholder group, we're not going to do a survey. That's where the surveys where we really want to get the community members and the residents. But for that stakeholder group, it could, it's about a 2 to 3 hour. And
So-
I'll know more. We have a kickoff meeting next week. And I will know more, and I can keep you all updated as we go through. I won't wait. If I've got news for all of you, I won't wait until our next Board of Health, but I'll bring forth
you.
We
during
can
the
direct
board.
them to you? Is that, are you
Yes.
a point of contact or somebody else?
Direct them to me.
Okay.
Yeah, so again, Nikki is responsible for 76 different peeps, and of those, nearly half are contract employees. And from my attending the division manager meetings, that is a constant battle, all these different things to get things done with all these different other agencies. So anyway, it's a lot of work, and it'll be really good to add a deputy director so that Nikki can do some of the other things that she does really well, and that I want to point out, and she is involved in NACHO and the national and local in Nevada, and so reaching out further and farther than Carson City in terms of the collaborations that can occur in the state and it can occur nationally. And so I can't wait until she gets that deputy director.
We're looking forward to it too.
With that, is there a motion to accept the director's report?
So moved.
Thank you. What do I say now?
All those in favor?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, great. Does that motion passes to accept the deputy's director? And I want, because we have other very important people spending some time waiting for their opportunity to speak, I'd like to move item 20D before 20C to allow Tracy from Advocates to speak about our Sexual Assault Awareness Month and the resources for victims and survivors.
And in addition, we have one of the deputies from the sheriff's office. We want to go through the process of what happens. And since April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, I thought this would be a good time for you all to hear the entire process.
Green light. Hi, I'm Tracy Trenowith, and I am the Sexual Assault Coordinator with Advocates to End Domestic Violence.
And I'm Erin McMahon. I'm a detective with the Sheriff's Office.
So what we would like to do is when somebody presents at the sheriff's office or the hospital, if you can go through the steps that you both take.
Okay. When we get a call for a sexual assault, we'll respond a patrol deputy, and we'll start that investigation there. Detectives will get involved with it. Initially, when we make contact with a victim, we're assessing any safety concerns that they have right away. We're also assessing for any sort of evidence that can be collected in the investigation. With that, we get advocates involved so that they have somebody that's advocating for their rights throughout the process so that the victim knows what their rights are through the process as well. With that, we look for timelines for when the sexual assault occurred. And again, like I said, what type of evidence we can collect. Advocates will stay with the victim throughout the process. If a sexual assault kit is ordered, they'll stay with them through that process.
So there's no good way for someone to report a sexual assault of where to go. So they may go to the hospital, they may go to the sheriff's office, they may call our crisis line. It might be that they're at school and they're telling their school counselor or social worker. So for the advocates side, we go everywhere. So we have a plan and protocol with our hospital that if someone presents at the ER, and they are saying that they are a victim of sexual assault, then we will respond within 20 minutes. With us getting there, they're going to go into a quiet room, and then we're going to be able to talk with them and find out when and if it happened here in Carson City, and then we can call law enforcement if they want to report, or if they're a child, we're going to report. So then that's when we get law enforcement involved. And then if there's nothing medically that they need to be checked out for, they don't have to be checked into the hospital. So we'll stay in that quiet room until that process starts. And then if the detectives decide that an exam needs to be ordered, they'll let us know, and then we'll call out our nurses. And I know Nikki was going to talk about the nurses piece.
So when it's determined that an exam is needed, then we have our sexual assault nurse examiners, or you'll hear me say SANES. That's the short version. Anyway, we have a sexual assault exam room, and this was put together quite a few years ago because it was identified that the victims needed to go to Reno. The hospital had it in the past, and then they stopped the program, and the victims had to go to Reno to get an exam. So it was a collaboration 1 year past for our supervisors, Karen Aboud, worked very hard to get that back into Carson. And now it's a collaboration between the health department and the city. Advocates, they have a piece within the exam room and the hospital. And we also receive grant funding to assist with that program in that we have gotten the equipment, we've gotten a really good camera, we've gotten computer equipment, we've gotten a swab dryer and various pieces of equipment along with training. We're able to send our advocates, the detectives, our nurses to training to keep up on the latest and greatest information out there, and so that they can network. So again, a victim will come, and they're accompanied by one of our advocates.
So we go in teams of two. So there's someone to stay with the victim and one to stay with the family and friends, because we know a survivor's path to healing, it takes not just them, but those around them. So that's unique for our state. We're the only team in the state that does that. So we're going to be with them wherever we met them. We're going to get with them and make sure that they get there. If they need that exam, we're going to stay with them. An average call, if it goes to an exam, is between 6 and 8 hours from beginning to end. And then when the nurse gets there, that part's probably not as long as we think. It's about an hour, sometimes two, depending on the severity. And then there's paperwork that we fill out. And this paperwork is crucial because that's the funding that is available for the $1,000 for the county to pay. And then we also have them do victims of crime. And that can come and follow up after the county funds have been used for that whether it's follow-up care or or therapy that they've needed. So victims of crime will come in. So we have all of our clients do that. And then our piece is we get to stay with them if it goes to court as well. So we'll stay in contact with them and walk them through that. They have amazing DA advocates, 2 of them at the DA's office. So we work with them, and then we're just extra support in that courtroom so that they have that process all the way through.
Can you point out that those are mostly volunteers?
Yes, so there's 2.
Because I think it's incredible when you hear everything that they have to do, that these people donate their time for this.
Yes, so our sexual assault team has 2 staff, myself and 1 other, and then there are 23 volunteers. So they've gone through 75 hours of training and then follow-up training. They get lots and lots of training with us. They are the ones who go out in the evenings and on the weekends to answer those calls, whether it's 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm calling them out, or they're answering that crisis call. So yeah, and like I said, 6 to 8 hours is that average. They're with them. So yeah, they're volunteers from our community who've stepped up to help us.
And then just a little more on for the exams. So they do the exam, pictures are taken, and some of those nurses then, if it becomes a court case, then they go and testify. And then all those records are kept at the health department, and during the exam, if medication is needed, antibiotics, or something for maybe an unplanned pregnancy, then that's all given at that exam. So then now I'm going to let Mary Jane talk about, once they fill out the application, then Mary Jane picks it up.
And Tracy pretty much covered a lot of it. It has been streamlined to be as easy for the victim as possible. We don't need to make any contact with the victim. Tracy and her team sends us a 1-page documentation. Really, all I need to know is that the crime was committed and that it was committed in Carson City. So then we immediately do an approval letter back to her so that they, as quickly as possible, have that approval letter to start seeking counseling. Our reports that are on the Board of, or for the Board of Health report for the whole department, what I am showing is how many of those applications have we received during that calendar year. And then the other line will be how many people are actually taking advantage of that counseling. We have found that, and just by looking at what I'm paying, that a lot of people wait a year or maybe even a couple of years before they actually seek counseling. We had like a time limit on that. I've just kind of tossed that aside. Because there's a lot of unusual circumstances and things. And so, we're going to formalize that. And really, it's not, we don't have any situations where it's been over that timeline anyway. But really looking at that again. So, so then they get the approval. They do their counseling. We're paying the invoices as it's going along. As they come to that maximum of $1,000, we let the counselor know, and then they go back to advocates to help with that process in applying for victims of crime through the state. We have also started paying insurance copays. If they want to put it through their insurance, that's fine. And then I'll just help with the copays, or the city will help with the copays. And if they choose not to put it through their insurance, that's okay too, and we just pay that full amount.
A lot of teens come back and get counseling later. They're not ready right then. And also it takes, in Carson City, it takes about a month to 2 months before you can get in to see someone. So that is also part of the reasoning for not right away.
So there's no crisis counselors
We-
that are available?
Well,
One-
recently, Advocates to End Domestic Violence now has a counselor on staff for several hours a week for free to not just domestic violence, but sexual assault clients as well. And that was really why that was put in place, was because we know that there is such a long wait to get it. One thing we didn't mention is that if it's a child and it goes to the CAC Center, which is the Washoe County Children's Advocacy Center, they might go for the forensic interview or their exam at the facility. The advocates for Carson go. So we'll be there so they don't get passed off between different advocates, and we'll be there through that process. So the kiddos get to go there and have their exams and possibly their interviews. So we're part of that process as well.
If you don't mind kind of elaborating just a little bit more. It's green. Sometimes in the past, we've had differences in the numbers between reports and criminal reports. Can you just elaborate on some of the responses where the victims do not choose to follow through with criminal reporting?
So every victim is given the right, if they're an adult, to choose to report or not report. If it's within 7 days and that individual wants an exam, we call that a Jane Doe exam, and they will get that exam and that evidence will be picked up and saved. So that if in time they do decide that they want to report, and last year we had 2 come forward and choose to report after that, that is one piece of that. The other piece is they may choose not to report. So for us, as the advocates, we want to make sure that if they need to get checked out, we send them over to Carson City Health and Human Services for the clinic piece. There's a blue card that we've created so that they don't have to explain to the person, the receptionist. They'll show this card, and then when they get back to talk with the nurse, then they can explain the process of what's happened so they can get help. So we're gonna walk them through that and making sure if they need mental health or what other services they might need, we will walk them through. Chances are, the reason our numbers are down for exams, they didn't necessarily report within that 7 days for that exam to be done. They're still reporting, but just not within that time. And so if they choose not to report, that is okay. We will still work with them and make sure they have the services. They do not qualify for the county funds or victims of crime without that police report. So we do make sure they know that. There was, in the state legislature, there's a form and a committee now that makes sure that every victim in our state, whether you go to a hospital, a clinic, doctor's office, you're given the resources of where to reach out for help. And the sheriff's office also makes sure that every person has that. So if at that point they don't want to report, they can come back later and they know where to go and how to do that.
So can I understand that just a little bit clearer? So the $1,000 that we offer to help someone that's a victim of sexual assault, are you saying if they choose not to report to the sheriff's office, we won't help them with the counseling?
Correct. Part of the NRS states that there has to be a police report for that $1,000 for the county to be responsible to pay for.
For the mandatory portion of what the county has to do.
Yes.
So it's not something, let me say it in a different way. We, as a board, could opt to allow that counseling to occur. And I'm not saying we will, I'm just saying if you see a true need in the community for people to get help, and even though I'm not forcing anyone to go to the police, that's just not gonna necessarily help them. But please let us know if you think that's something we need to address. I would appreciate you letting us know.
Yeah, we need to update our codes, our city codes, in regards to sexual assault. So we certainly bring that forward at that time.
Thank you.
I just like to add while they're talking about it, just so, I mean, I think everyone is hearing the level of compassion that the team provides these victims. And it wasn't always like that in Carson City. And it's certainly not always like that everywhere. So we are, lucky is the wrong word, because it just doesn't fit. But we're just very fortunate that we're able to dedicate the level of compassion that we're able to dedicate to these victims. And a lot of that has to do with the group of you sitting right here and those volunteers. So kudos to you all.
I have a question, clarification. Did you say we have no crises nurses now? Did you say that?
Mental health. Mental health.
For mental health.
providers.
I meant for mental health.
But
Yeah.
Advocates just hired one.
We
That's-
do have
Thank goodness. Yeah.
But you don't have one within your agency?
No, we do not have any counselors within our agency.
I'll tell you something. It is, it's very difficult to find counselors. To fill that void. It's similar to the nursing crisis that Dr. Lyons was talking about a while ago. You cannot find behavioral health workers. It almost doesn't matter what you pay. It's very difficult to find them. And I think that's one of the reasons why you see those numbers be the way they are, because, you might have a victim who finds a behavioral health person, but doesn't connect with them. And a lot of it has to do with, particularly in behavioral health, with that connection. And if they don't have a connection, they don't often continue that counseling. So it's a countrywide crisis, that we have a lack of behavioral health providers. We're not going to solve it locally.
And could I follow up on the mayor's question without holding you to it in a public meeting? What percentage of cases would you say over the years the victims choose not to report?
They all look at me. Over the years, we've seen an increase in those wanting to report. And the part that I get to say, and I will say this, in Carson City, we are lucky. We are lucky to have amazing detectives, amazing nurses, and a great team. So when we get to go and talk with them, we get to tell them it is a good process. They are going to help you. So we've seen an increase in those choosing to report over the years, because we're able to walk them through that and let them know the support is here. Nationally, it might not be, and around the state, it isn't that case. But here in Carson, we do have a higher rate of reporting when they reach out, and letting them know that it's okay, it's 6 months later, it's okay that it's a year later. They will still take that report and they'll take it serious. So that helps.
But you really didn't answer the question.
I know, because I really don't have the answer, but I can't.
So
She's running for office, by the way.
I can't estimate because I don't.
Okay.
We've seen an increase in those choosing to report in the last few years.
Well, and how about just those that are willing to do the exams and preserve the evidence? Because that's,
But
to
the
me,
mayor's-
that's even important,
Yeah.
so they have an opportunity to report.
But to your point, Mayor, when you come back with the ordinance work, it would be good to have that number so we have an idea
Yes.
as to what we're,
Trying to work.
because definitely would be willing to help with the counseling to an extent, regardless of whether they report or not.
So kind of jumping off what the sheriff mentioned, I know we won't get a numbers answer here, but can you correlate those that aren't willing to report to being false claims? And how often do you get false claims? What do you do with that when a person comes forward that's not telling the truth?
So that would be part of the investigation for everything. We do the best that we can to get them to be forthright with us in the beginning if there is a question of it being a false claim right away. But we'll investigate everything and find the totality of the circumstances that are involved in the case. So, that's collecting evidence, whether it's, security footage from somewhere, something that would corroborate what actually happened. So what we do is we take that, we get the totality of what we get, and then we turn that over to the district attorney's office. So what that does for us is it gives us an independent set of eyes who hasn't been looking at the case to look at it, to evaluate if it is something that's criminally prosecutable or not.
Does that happen very often, that you get false complaints or false claims?
I don't have the statistics for what, where that falls or not.
Good answer.
I want to point out,
Sitting at the end of the table.
I'd like to point out that really want to look at the 10 reasons to start by believing when someone says that they've been assaulted. And to know, too, that trauma-informed care, when you learn about trauma distorts the memory. Trauma distorts the reactions, so we can't judge someone's reaction or someone, why don't you remember that? I mean, you just said blah, 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 Yeah, and all circumstances are different, he whispers in my ear. So to look at these things, the 10 reasons to start by believing. Most victims of sexual assault never report to law enforcement, often because of the responses they receive initially from families and friends. A negative response can worsen the trauma and foster an environment where perpetrators face no consequences for their crimes. And rapists don't just attack once, many times they reoffend, often multiple times. And stop the silence and start by believing, okay? Better to assume that it's a true report than to start at the onset by questioning whether this is a true report or not, and asking why questions or, that kind of thing. So that trauma-informed part that the health department will be working on relative to all kinds of traumas, not just sexual assault, is going to be moving forward. And when Nikki says she received grant funding, let's just know that you don't just receive grant funding. One has to work on the application and back and forth and put the data together, blah, blah, blah. This is a big process to get grant funding. And I want to give kudos out to Tracy for volunteer coordination of, you said 76 volunteers?
23.
Oh,
So
23.
they take a 75-hour
Okay,
training.
you know what?
76 employees,
I'm sure it feels
23
like I'm sure it
volunteers.
feels like
75 hours.
76. Okay,
She would like
Work-
more.
working with volunteers is like herding cats. Okay.
Yeah.
And I would like to point out that the statistics would say that there are 3 or 4 women in this room who have been sexually assaulted. And lastly, this is actually not a women's issue. This is a man's issue. Because the vast majority of perpetrators are men. Okay? And that's men on men, that's men on women, that's men on kids. This is a man's issue. And the next step in this process is to help men not be perpetrators, whether it's domestic violence or sexual assault.
I would just like to thank Tracy and the team. It's a challenge, but I see those first steps in the process will very often give an indication of how that process will end, whether we go forward with prosecutions or such. But to getting the victims to file a report or provide the details that we in law enforcement need can be the most traumatic piece of the entire event. And so how you and your volunteers deal with the victims is just outstanding. So thank you.
And lastly, Tracy is working with the entire community to include the Sheriff's Department on our Start by Believing campaign, which begins the first Wednesday of April. April being Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And we will be closing out April the 4th Wednesday with Denim Day and encourage everyone to participate in that. That's in your packet. Wear denim that day to show your support for the women who have suffered through this kind of trauma.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, back to 20C for possible action, discussion of the acceptance of, we already accepted Nikki's report, right? No, this is the annual report. Sorry, this is another report. This is the
It's report day.
2021 annual report.
Okay, again, for the record, Nikki Aker, Director, Carson City Health and Human Services. I'm going to go through this fairly quickly because some of these stats, you're getting it in two different forms today. On page 3 of the annual report, this time I took the liberty to put all your pictures in there. I haven't done that before, but if you don't like your picture, then give me another one and I'll include that. I'm not going to say if you don't want it in there, I won't include it, but if you don't like your...
We just got brand new pictures that we all look really good in.
Oh, good. So
Ask Rachel for them.
Okay.
No photoshopping for
You
the
want me to
mayor
give you more
or
hair?
for the sheriff.
It's called government transparency.
On page 5 of the report, I want to point out the funding. So right at the end of 2021, we were 71% grant funded. You know, that's pretty heavily grant funded. It is very heavy grant funded, I would say.
Pretty normal for health departments.
Well, it's higher, yeah. It's higher right now because of the COVID. Yeah. And then I'm 23% general funded, and we do get 6% of revenue. That's through the clinic and through environmental health.
Nikki, may I ask you a question? I know that you're trying to strike a balance between brevity and being informal or informational when you produce these, but I'm wondering if you can, in the future, maybe find a way to start to like, you must be measuring successes, right? I mean, it's a lot of numbers, and numbers at a point in time sometimes lose their meaning. So I think it would be interesting to see numbers over time and whether the programs you're doing are effective, because I think that tells a bigger story. Now, you may struggle to get that into a concise report, and I understand that, but I don't know if that's possible. I mean, I think because you look at the high schoolers that vape, and those are alarming numbers, but it would be interesting to know if the programs you're implementing, and I understand the last couple of years have been a struggle, so we kind of have to sort of clear the slate. But so maybe it's a good point now to go forward and say, hey, our programs, despite the fact that we're doing a program, it's not effective. Or our program is effective, we'd like to do more of it because we can reach, we can drop that number from, a 10% reduction to a 15% reduction, for instance.
Absolutely.
In our organization, we do something called a stoplight report that is tied to our performance matrix relative to the health components that we're required to answer to our insurance companies for. And so we always have a green or a red light going on each of those when we have our monthly meetings. So if we're doing, BMI, what's the BMI number of our patients over time, just as an example. But it helps because it's always in front of you. And you may be doing that in the background, and I suspect being an accredited agency you are. But I think it would be kind of cool to have that in here, because I think it adds a little more meaning for the general public who's reading it.
Sure, and I'll kind of look through here and maybe see where I can include that this year.
If it's possible.
Because that's what I'm asking for is feedback. So So definitely I'll
Yeah,
look.
because I think it would really help people understand, that the problem, it's either going away or it isn't going away. And I think we've gotten used to, all of us during COVID, to be better at realizing trend lines now, right? That's all we've heard about the last 2 years. So as a general public, I think they're receptive to that now.
Exactly. Yeah, I'll look and see how I can incorporate that into here. And especially, when I'm looking at this tobacco control and prevention, I'll see how I can get that in a chart with trend lines. So thank you for that. All I would say with tobacco control and prevention, you can see we've got work to do. And Carson City definitely has work to do when you're looking at it across Nevada. So
One number I would be interested in knowing is, so there's like, for examples, high schoolers that vape, the first number, Carson City high schoolers who have ever used. I would be interested in a number of students who tried it just once and no more.
I will check and see if that's within this survey.
Okay.
If we can pull that.
Okay. Yeah, it would just be interesting to see the draw from even trying.
Right.
And if that in and of itself then, because back to what I had said earlier, so then you have someone who says, wow, that was fun, or that tasted great, and my life hasn't fallen apart, and therefore it's safe. When in reality, therefore it isn't safe. And then even talking about the oil-based, and then that's a whole different conversation. So anyway,
And
thanks.
that may, if it's not in the youth risk behavioral survey, then maybe that is, we do a survey pre-presentation and post-presentation to see if they've learned anything. And maybe that's a question that we could put on that survey. I'll inquire about that. Okay. So, on the clinical services division, this is mainly our family planning, and then we do have the immunizations. I want to point out here that the numbers that you're going to be seeing within this report and the numbers that you see on the health department report are different in that this report is what is diagnosed and treated within our clinic. And the other numbers are what is reported
In the
from the
field.
4 counties
the field
to
work.
epidemiology. So just wanted to get that out there. It's lined out here, how the percentages fell out as far as STDs. So you can look at that. I do want to point out that 49% of the individuals that come for services are uninsured. So we are that safety net for individuals. And then 24.2 have private insurance. I do want to make a correction on page 8. So as far as under establishments and violations, the critical violations in Carson City were actually 175.
Oh, I feel better.
And in Douglas County were 138. What happened with the report that was pulled for the numbers that reported in the document that you have in front of you is it was violations that were either a 2-point and a 5-point combined when it should have only been a 5-point.
175 and 138,
Yeah.
Instead of which?
373 and 359.
Oh, down at the bottom, I got
Yeah.
it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the critical violations
I feel much
reported in
better.
Carson City. So if they have a critical violation, then of course it goes into the report and they need to correct it. And then we go back and re-inspect, or is something that they can correct. It depends on what it is, and, do they have to make a correction so they're, can still operate? Or, are they waiting for something else to come in? Are they waiting for a repairman? It varies. And
Nikki, can we go back?
Sometimes one day, if it's critical enough, they'll actually be back the next day because they update their score and it has to change from the A to something lower that they have to post. So even most of the businesses are gonna request next day, or because they don't want to post.
And
their
sometimes
Bs
it
or
can
Cs.
be,
Done right then.
it can be fixed while we're on site.
Right.
Nikki, on the Medicaid, just a quick question. Do you have a staff member that the uninsured, do you have a staff member that tries to work with them to get them qualified for Medicaid? Or are you doing not much in that?
We do have a partnership that we have eligibility workers on site, not every day.
Okay.
But, through the family planning grant, some of this is your kiddos, the 14-year-olds that are
Right.
coming.
Right.
And that's what that family planning grant
So they
is
might
for.
actually be insured, they're just not wanting
Not
to
reporting
claim
it.
the insurance for family reasons.
Mhm.
Okay. So
But
that kind of
this
pushes
is-
the number up a little bit.
Why this is important, why I provide it, is, these individuals, they may be paying a little bit because of where they fall on the scale for Title X, or they may be paying nothing.
Right, right.
So,
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's better for the whole system if you can get them qualified for Medicaid, because then you can get them qualified for specialty care if they need it, and
Mhm.
because we all know specialists aren't going to see, uninsured patients. They just don't.
and if there's a case that they need to be referred to someone else, that we would definitely work with
Okay, thank
them and try and get them insured, or at least if they're, under 18, encourage them to discuss things with their parents, which we always encourage that anyway. Kind of help them, we'll role play with them and help them, what are they going to say? So, and some of this underinsured is also individuals that they don't have U.S. citizenship. And we take care of them anyway because it impacts all the way up. Okay. All righty, I am going to move to page 9 of the report, and just want to give you more information. These top 5 most reported conditions by NRS 411A, that's your reportable diseases. And so there's a whole list of like over 70 some that are reportable, but we're just giving you the most reported there.
I hope I never catch Campylobacter. Whatever that is, it doesn't sound good.
Exactly.
Just make sure your health department isn't inspecting the restaurant you go to.
Yeah, those two, that and salmonella, that's your foodborne illness. So yeah, let's hope you don't. On page 10 of the report, we've highlighted what the mandated responsibilities are. So those are our mandates and what those amounts are. Looks like I need to try and line them up a little bit better there. And I want to point out that through our CSBG grant, there were 15 iPads purchased to give to residents that didn't have the ability for virtual medical or mental health appointments through COVID. So as we know, some people did not have access to computers or anything like that. And then with our community, also with our community services block grant, we helped 925 individuals at 124,500. So, and that's all grant funded. Then on my page 11, so that goes on to tell you more of the number of people that we've served through human services. It's the money that we had put out of our COVID grants that were received in human services. And then it's always, people are always asking what our point in time counts are. And this has a graph since 2005 of what those are. And we just finished one, and I don't remember. Right
It
and
did
left.
not go up. I'm surprised.
What's that?
I didn't go up. I'm
No, I think,
surprised.
wasn't it 70, 76?
I think that's where she had the numbers. She remembered something. Yeah.
Okay, and on the next page, so page 12, again, talking.
Can we go back just for a moment?
Sure.
I think something that's important that this board and the community recognize, because again, we're going to be coming forward with some avenues or some things for what we think can help prevent homelessness or provide opportunities. I think you should be concentrating that you realize the 5 housing grants and you look to how much money it costs to do that. It is not an inexpensive endeavor. And so I think that's why when people go, why can't you just fix it? When I'm out in the community and they're like, Lori, do something. It's like when I'm able to point to this to them, they go, oh my, I do not have, or we don't as a community have 25,000 per homeless person to provide them a home. And so I just point to that so that we recognize how difficult of a solution that there is. And that's why it's hard, because then you start adding that's just housing grants, but you start adding all the wrap services from the others that can help them make different choices and different lifestyles. It's a very expensive endeavor. So I just think this particular slide or information in the report might be very useful for everyone with the public discussion of what's going on. So, thank you.
And I'd like to just add to that too. It's expensive, and also there's that component of, some people don't want to live in an apartment or a house. We've had individuals that we house, and they don't stay because, they can't be within the 4 walls. And it takes many touches to assist.
Well, I want to be careful about us saying that, because that's a common trope, that the homeless don't want to be sheltered. And we need to be careful of that, because there's a lot of reasons why they elect not to continue in a particular area. It may not be in their community, may not be next to the resources that they need otherwise. And also want to be careful that we don't use the word, when we're talking about the homeless or those on the street, that we're not saying we're trying to get them a home. Because when we think of a home, us, it's one thing. We're just looking for a room, a studio, a shared housing situation. I mean, basically a roof and walls, right? It's not necessarily that we're trying to get the homeless homed. And just one of those little things that when we're in the community, I think can be,
Good point, Dr. Lyons. Thank you. Yeah, there's just it's very complex, as the mayor pointed out. Flying through this here. I am going to move down to my page 15. That's the Community Health Improvement Plan accomplishments. Of course, if you have questions on the other pages, I'll go back. But here, just want to highlight under behavioral health, and there were individuals that took part in a behavioral health emergency operations plan. We do have one for the community. And so an exercise was conducted. During the Caldor fire, one team that was deployed was a behavioral health team, and that was from the Nevada Resiliency Project. And if you recall, I came forward in December of 2020. It's no cost to us, but it was 2 individuals that could help us with the COVID response if someone with COVID was having a rough time, and this is someone that they could contact with. I am going to bring that contract back forward, or in a local, because it's with the state. It will be coming back in April, and it is, again, to contract with them in case there's something that we need in the future that they can help us with. One thing that we did learn when they were deployed, it was after the individuals were supposed to go to Reno, and of course that was from California directive, that was not our directive. But what I would do differently in the future is deploy them at the beginning of the response. So just wanted to point that out. We're also working on a new project, and I'm going to call it, for right now, just for, we haven't come up with the name, but street outreach. And that's to assist individuals that are in our community. So not street squad. I had the sheriff a little...
Come on.
Yeah,
we'll skip that one too.
Yeah, I had the sheriff a little concerned that we were going to start into law enforcement, but I don't want that within my agency.
We're actually trying to reduce his workload. He just doesn't know it yet.
Well, it was the squad piece.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
He was like,
So it was meant to reduce his workload.
So on the access to healthcare, Nikki, I would say that you had lots and lots of activity and that you should put it in there. And that would be how many vaccines you gave to how many individuals in how many different sites. That was a tremendous deal for getting access to healthcare.
Well, and what the purpose of this is just because we had an access to healthcare
I
priority, and that was that
it
committee.
was deferred or whatever. I would say,
Yeah, I can do that.
priorities deferred due to, massive outreach.
Yeah, we've done a lot. Also, under behavioral health, criminal justice collaboration, we recognize that there's some situations at juvenile detention that we wanted to get people together and see if we can come up with some solutions to provide help within our community. So that was created in that, so we can look at everything, and the chair is from juvenile detention. So really looking at that youth piece. So I'm going to move on to our strategic plan updates. And I just want to make note here that you're going to see objectives that don't always, it's not objective A, B, C. I've picked different objectives that we've had some traction on and that I want to highlight. Some are of the objectives go out to 2025. If I have felt that I needed to highlight it here, I would, but all the objectives are not within this chart. So, and if you'll notice too, some of our objectives have been pushed off because of COVID, and I've highlighted some of that. So on the public health funding priority, I just want to make comment here. We are, like Dr. Lyons reported, I am a part of NACHO and also the State Association of County and City Health Officials. And we just recently had the opportunity to do a Heal Day virtually. Usually I would go back to DC, but we've done a Heal Day virtually for this year and last year, and worked very closely with the Chief of Government and Public Affairs at NACHO. She will ask us for information about what's happening at the local level. These are your local public health departments. So these are your boots on the ground. That's what they're looking for. So what we talked about with Congressman Amedee and individuals from Rosen's and Cortez Mastro's office is looking at the public health loan repayment program. So it's lined out that individuals, if they are going into public health, they have loans that need to be paid off. This program can help them, and hopefully that will strengthen our public health workforce. Also, we talked about, there's been a lot of funding, the COVID funding that has come out, and we see that with different events. Ebola happened and we got money for Ebola. Zika happened, we got money for Zika. COVID, we've got, the money coming in, and what we really need is a sustained investment in the infrastructure. We saw early on with COVID, we were nowhere near prepared. We've done all the exercises in that, but it's that infrastructure that really makes a difference if you can respond and how fast you can respond. So we talked about that, and then we also talked about the investment in the core public health capabilities, and again, that is to strengthen that infrastructure, and how fast that money from the federal government comes down to us. There's the go-between is the state, and sometimes it can get hung up there. And in some states, it's not even going to the locals, it's staying at the state. So, we do have the money coming down to us, but right now it's like, how fast is that happening? And because where that really impacts us, if we're getting a grant and we only have 9 months to work on it, there's not a lot you can do with trying to hire a person to do it, because I don't have extra people to just put them into grants. So these are the things that we talked about. I also highly emphasized that with the community health needs assessment, that the funding is flexible in that the communities can use the funds for what makes sense for their communities. It's not all disease specific. Next page, and I noticed that a word crept up on me. I need to get rid of continue, and I have no idea where that C came from, but I need to get rid of that. This here is what is an addendum to our community health needs assessment, and these statistics that you see here are what we call primary data, or data that we are collecting. A lot of the data that we get is secondary data, so it comes from other resources. But this here is the data that we are collecting within our health department. And that concludes.
Good.
And if you can't read or you can't go to sleep at night, you want to read this again, you have additional comments or anything, feel free to shoot me an email, call me. What the plan is, I'll probably give it about a month. Then I'm going to go ahead and publish it. I'll get some paper copies made so they're available in the health department and other locations, and then it will be on our website.
And I will be using component pieces of this as a distribution for the coffee and conversation with the mayor. The health department will be my subject matter for the upcoming meeting there, because again, I think it's important that the community even understands there's more to the health department than even just COVID. I think it became very known during this time, but I still think the breadth and depth of what occurs there is unknown in our community. So I look forward to sharing the data in a wider audience, not just people that are concentrating on health. I think to truly make change, we may not be the right people, right? The ones you want to get to that can actually make the change is the community itself. So I look forward to trying to help introduce that into a different arena. So,
And
see how
thank you
it goes.
for including us.
I'll see how it goes. I might regret my decision, but we'll see.
Well, in regards to that slide set, and of course, I just saw the original, there's still some amendments to be put forward. It's an excellent slide deck, and it would be nice to maybe include that in our next Board of Health, or if you can post it, the cities.
I will be happy to do so when I've got it all. We're close.
Yeah,
All
right,
finalized up.
right.
I also always have my PowerPoints that I do on all of those presentations. I have the chamber actually post them because I, again, feel they're all public information.
Right.
And the objective is to share across the system. So it'll also
good,
be emailed out to all of the chamber membership. So be happy to do that.
Good. Now, in regards to this report, Nikki, on the agenda is possible action to accept it. Do we have a motion to accept with her amendments, and corrections going forward?
So moved.
I'll move to accept with the changes and amendments that was presented.
Second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And then by power invested in me, I can adjourn this meeting?
Nope. Final public comment.
Oh, yes.
One
whoops.
last time, one last
21.
time.
Any public comment?
We're used to that. We know to call for it. Sorry. The final 3 minutes. Sorry, go ahead.
Does it start when I make a comment back?
As soon as you go.
All right, as soon as I open my mouth. Okay, thank you all very much. The presentation has been very informative, but very hard to keep up because you jump back from the agenda to pieces that I don't have availability to and access, so I can't follow along quite as well. Things that I wanted to comment, you all figured out in what Nancy said was a blanket. How did you explain that? Anyhow, you said, okay, it was just a vote, this was okay and acceptable, everything on it, and it wasn't. I don't know what the fire truck was going to turn into. Was it going to be scrapped? Those type of things where I would have liked to gone into questions about that. Would have liked to talk about lakeside asphalt and the description of it as being aging asphalt. What does that mean? I looked up asphalt. I've worked with it a bit, and I'm afraid that there's no description here of any of the situations that asphalt comes to that is called aging. They have other things like they would say it's depressions or raveling or potholing so I'm just saying, so it would have been nice to understand that better, but it was all worked out in one vote. So the next thing is I'd like to add caffeine to your list of addictive materials. My access to or exposure to, or their exposure to me rather, to youth that are just out homeless or whatever, caffeine drinks are keeping them going. and a lot of them are doing caffeine in concentrated amounts because it's easier to get a hold of. So I was wondering how that fit into any legislation about who you sell such levels of caffeine to. The next thing is that I really want to put into the discussion, I can't find. Electronic gadgets. That's the one last thing. That is an addiction. And it's causing it's causing more
Can't be
disruption.
without our cell phones. Yeah.
Do I get those 3 minutes back? No, you make a comment.
No.
The deal is that that's one thing that I saw in there that wasn't the caffeine, the electronic gadgets. I don't know if the electronics would fit on your idea of addictions, but caffeine definitely. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Denny.
Now's the magic.
Any other public comments? Oh, okay. And with that, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Good meeting, good meeting.